do 90 minutes, of course, like every good podcast.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know,
wow.
Give
and like every good podcast, we fail miserably at keeping to that amount.
Too good at talking.
Too good at talking. Too old to complete the training.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, chat. How y'all doing? We're here with Tiny Tally. Look at him.
Yeah, it's lovely. This is so good. Oh, I can see right under your armpits. This is
our
amazing.
son. Yeah.
It's like a dream I had. A good dream.
The best kind.
The best dream.
Wow. Okay.
Every dream.
Gonna be one of those streams.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well then, let's get going here.
Rip it.
Your activity. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have this. I don't need to do that anymore. So
This is an amazing start, guys. Is this how you start every podcast?
That's how we
This
start
is
every
incredible.
podcast. Yeah, usually our guest is like a little more talkative and vamps for us.
I'm sorry.
wow.
Oh, God. Okay.
Damn.
Well, I didn't want to talk all. I didn't know if you're gonna do some intro music or something. Or
Oh,
if
we're
you're
gonna do.
like-
Oh, yes. No, I explained this off air moments ago. We go live. We say hi,
And
chat.
then you gave me criticism for not talking. So
Then
here I am.
we do 3, 2, 1. Yeah. No, this isn't the start of the official podcast. This is just the beginning of the stream where we like.
This
say
is
hi
where
to
we talk
chat.
about like Batman and stuff,
This is
right?
where we talk about
I
Batman.
know.
You
I
remember WoW
remember.
Killer? You
I remember
know how
doing
this
podcasts
goes.
with you. I know how it goes.
That's how it
I
goes.
heard about it.
Kyle,
My
what's your
sight
opinion?
lines aren't right. I need to. Yeah, I remember how it goes.
Yeah, what do
I
you
can't
think
do
of
that
that?
all the time. I can't do that every single time I talk to her.
No.
Like basically, I'm only talking to one of you because that's where my sight line is.
That's
Right?
okay.
Sorry.
Oh, just look at the camera.
What's
That's
your opinion
fine.
on Cyclops of the X-Men?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, Cyclops and the X-Men.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the movies, right? In the original movies, I didn't like him very much because he wasn't very good. But I do like the actor a lot, so I'm willing to give him slack. But of course, he was shorter than Wolverine, so that doesn't work out. That's not how it's supposed to be.
That's true.
But he was my favorite. He was my favorite X-Man growing up. He was great.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I
See?
particularly liked him when he did that 90s thing of like cutting the top of his mask off so the hair showed.
Ooh, yeah.
You know? Like all superheroes, man, they had like the wrestling masks on until the 1990s, and then someone just went around with the scissors and was like, "Get that hair out! Come on, show that hair! It's beautiful!
The
Don't be
stress.
ashamed! Get
Wear
it out
the
there!"
Spandex,
Oh,
like
careful with the laser eyes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Careful with the laser eyes, you said?
Careful with laser
Okay.
eyes.
Did you know Taliesin likes Cyclops?
No, I didn't.
And so you asked this to put me on the spot as the Cyclops, hater?
Yes, the local
Oh, you're a Cyclops hater.
Yes.
I can understand it. He's like,
Such a goddamn Boy Scout. Like,
yeah.
just, he's such an Anduin.
He's a bit more of a bully than Anduin. I don't know. He's a bit of a Leonardo. He's got a lot of jealousy going on as
If
well.
you're
That's the
gonna
thing.
go for
That's
more
fair.
spicy Anduin takes, make sure it gets in the podcast first.
All right. I think that's Kyle saying we should start this. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Are people are saying I am a little lower.
Are you
I
a
am,
little
I am
lower?
slightly lower. Slightly
lower
Slightly
than
lower.
me? I'm
Yeah.
coming in exactly in the same point.
Well, no, but if you see when I kind of chill down here and I'm talking,
Oh, okay.
like this is
All
kind
right,
of my.
I'll just bring myself down
There we go. Yeah, get on my level.
Get on Kyle's level?
Yeah, get on my level.
You say that now. Kyle's going to start like eating the microphone.
I
And it's gonna
rarely
all be
eat,
over.
but I do get louder.
Wonderful.
You're using two different microphones. Does that cause you trouble?
Yes.
I know how difficult it is to set up like a space where two of you are there, like interacting, playing games together, getting a good consistent sound and
Isn't
stuff.
it-
We've
isn't
been
it
doing
a-
that for years,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's been fun to watch you absolutely nail it, actually, with no troubles at all.
Oh,
It's been
thanks.
a bit
Thank
depressing.
you. Yeah, I love it when you lie to me. It's my favorite thing. Yeah, I love when you lie to my face, Tally. You bastard. Yeah, it's like all of the energy and joy that's gained from being in the same place is canceled out by all of the technical headaches. Yeah.
But I do sound nicer when
do.
I come across Discord, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yes. You still want this, Taliesin? Okay, so you moved. You were holding that smile for so long, I thought you froze.
He was doing the
Oh,
freeze.
you thought I frozen? I was just
Yep.
thoroughly enjoying this excellent chemistry. It was fantastic.
Yep. Oh my God. Okay, got a new problem.
Just holding up your guitar.
Got a new problem.
Reach on in and play it.
I got a new problem, Kyle.
What's the new
The
problem?
new problem is for some reason Tally isn't getting picked up, even though he was getting picked up a second ago.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean? No, I'm getting picked up, aren't I?
No, the stream's fine. The recording, which makes my life easier, is not. But whatever. I'll just rip it out. I'll rip it out of the video.
Rip it from the stream.
Yep.
Rip it raw.
That's what I'll do. We'll do this. This'll work.
Whack any old shit on Spotify. No one listens to it there anyway. Don't worry.
All right. I think we're good to go. All right. Let's do it. This is up, which means the Grinding Gear podcast. This one with Taliesin records officially in 3, 2, 1, go. Greetings. It's time to begin the grind that is this week. It's the Grinding Gear podcast. I'm Garrett.
Yes.
He's Kyle. And the dude yelling yes
It's my favorite. I love it.
is our good friend Taliesin. Well, about to be Kyle's good friend. You
Hello.
two have actually never met before.
Yeah,
No,
I like
no.
it. We've been hanging out.
We've been
we
chilling.
were shooting shit while you were sorting out mics and sound levels and stuff.
We agreed on
Yeah,
the
we're pretty close now. In
significance of-
fact, maybe we don't need you anymore. Thanks for bringing us together
Oh
and
my
everything.
god, good. I've been messing with lights all day. I would love it if I didn't have to participate in this podcast.
Oh,
That'd be
okay.
great.
Well,
I'll just
we're
take
gonna-
I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna grab my my body pillow. I'm gonna grab my body.
It's 11:30 in the PM for me, my friend. That's why I'm already cheeked and puffy-eyed, and trying to. The idea of making it through 2 hours, that looks so comfy. Oh my goodness!
So it was sent as a gag, and I was a little worried about explaining it to people. But yeah, it is horrible. These are so comfortable. I have been missing out. Yeah, this showed
That's
up.
so great.
This showed up as a gag.
That's
gift.
that's like if a certain corner of the internet decided that like Emmett Selk was not pretty enough and put him through one of those filters.
Yeah, you know,
And was like, they don't make video game characters pretty enough anymore. I'll sort this
other
out.
side's prettier.
Oh my
Yeah.
it
goodness.
gets prettier.
I like that side better.
Yeah, well, he's like a sad boy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, or disappointment.
Good. Oh, true.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, I didn't really read that as disappointment, but
I thought your hugs would be better, but apparently not.
apparently not. But yeah, my God, I don't know how you body people do it. Body pillow people do it. That shit took so long to stuff.
Bodies.
It took so long. Body people. Yeah, all these damn people with bodies. It's such a shame. It's such an absolute shame. But yeah,
Welcome to the show.
welcome to the show, Tally. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you for having me.
I held myself hostage because you asked me to come on your podcast, which has already
Demanded.
happened. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I gave
was
you
on
no
it.
choice.
on it
There
last
was
week.
blackmail, there was threats, there was crying, there was pleading. I was on my knees. I'm like, Garrett, please. It's been too long. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty busy. I don't really need you these
You
days.
made him
I'm
do
really
that
successful.
for episode 8?
I am a big fan of quoting Denathrius, the only good thing from Shadowlands.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. You would have liked that raid.
I think I would have.
You really would have liked that
Yeah.
raid. Yeah. No, you would have been into that.
Because he grabbed the guy and he like threw him. I like that part.
Yeah.
The intro
heels,
cinematic.
Heels crawl to me on your knees as a raid mechanic.
Oh, that's amusing.
Yeah. And you have to.
The best thing about Shadowlands is not, in fact, Denathrius. The best thing about Shadowlands, which is a World of Warcraft expansion for those of the
Yeah,
audience
not
who
to
don't
be
know.
confused with Shadowbringers.
But don't worry, we're not going to talk about that too much. But the best
That's
thing,
why you're here. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about the state
the
of
best
MMOs.
thing about Shadowlands is that it begins with an S. So every now and then, I can do my favorite troll tweet on the internet, which is to do a tier list, but then just put all of the expansions of World of Warcraft in alphabetical order on the tier list.
So everyone gets
like-
mad because Shadowlands is at the
Oh,
top.
everyone gets so mad. So Shadowlands is obviously S tier, right?
Oh,
There it is.
I
Wow, you
see.
found
It
that
begins with
quickly.
an S, and then there's no A, and then BFA and Burning Crusade are B, and by this point, anyone seeing the tweet is already fuming. Like their minds are blown, they're red, their blood is pumping, they're typing, they can't hear anything. Their partner is sitting next to them, going, "I think that list might be in alphabetical order." They can't hear it because all they can hear is the mechanical keyboard tap tap tapping as they write. You idiot, you scumbag. You're the reason WoW's bad, and that's it. So yeah, that's the best thing about Shadowlands is that it's a very unpopular expansion, but it does begin with the letter S. So when you do this incredible,
I'm thinking, are we getting an A? It's War Within. It's midnight, and then it's what's the last one?
the Last Titan,
Last Titan shit. Yeah, we're
which
still not
comes
getting
under
an A.
L
We're still not getting
Yeah.
an A.
But the
in the
Butcher and Here's
University
the
Accepted Filing
Storm.
System.
The Butcher and Here's the Storm was sorted by T, which means Blizzard might use T as their sorting letter.
Oh, that's right. That was villainous. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was
Just the
looking
kind of idiot thing they would do.
looking for B.
hate them.
That's the worst thing that ever happened to Heroes of the Storm. Yes, that is the absolute worst
I'm
thing that
so
ever
glad
happened to Heroes of the
Kotick's
Storm.
gone. They won't be doing that anymore.
Yeah.
No. Spencer, Burning Crusade. The Burning Crusade. I know Spencer knows where it's at. You go to Spencer's house, it's all all just filed under.
There's no confusing name conventions with Blizzard Entertainment. You know, you say HOTS, everybody knows exactly what game you're talking about.
Yeah. But in Phil Spencer's house, everything's just filed under G for Game Pass. So
That is
every game
fair,
goes in there.
including the biggest.
Anyway,
hit of the year
that's
so
on the
far.
screen now. Sorry.
So I do feel I'm doing a bad job as a podcast host in introducing you. So for folks that foolishly are unaware of you, Taliesin is a friend of mine, a new friend of Kyle's.
Hello.
One half of Taliesin and Evitel, famously from either Twitch or YouTube, depending on how you may consume content that you make, Tally. But you are, would it be disingenuous to say you are famously known for your coverage of the game World of Warcraft?
Yeah, almost exclusively so, to be honest. On our YouTube channel, certainly that's the game that we've always covered and that we continue to cover. On stream, we can mix it up a little bit more. And sort of branch out and what have you. But yeah, the channel tends to be all about the WoW.
Cool. And in terms of you and me working together, we used to have a podcast together. It was, I wouldn't say short-lived, because I've definitely had shorter-lived podcasts, but I've had a lot of others that were way longer-lived. But we had a show together called WoW Killer that started at the end of BFA in World of Warcraft. So it was a World of Warcraft podcast, and it was you and me basically rehashing things you probably already talked about on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, but with you as an excellent foil to work off against, which made it all the more interesting. It's like, you can shine a light from a torch, right, at a wall, which is what I'm doing on the YouTube channel, but you were a beautiful prism. And when I shone the light off you, it came out in all different rainbow colors of new opinions and insight, is how I used to think of it.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then I would go and rehash what we talked about on that show on the instance, and then we had
and that was my way of being on the instance. It was 2 degrees of separation. It was like the Kevin Bacon thing, right?
You would infest my brain with your thoughts, and then I would bring them to the instance as you being the Trojan riding the horse that's shaped like Garrett. That's exactly
how that's right. I was inside you, as it were, infiltrating, waiting to make my move.
Using a Trojan.
Waiting for Scott Johnson and Patrick Beja to be asleep so I could come out of you and take over.
That's how it worked.
I mean, it is one of the best things about being a podcaster's friend is hearing your name drop. So yeah, I'll back this up.
Yeah. You know, everyone loves the meme of what it's like to listen to a podcast with the person trying to be friends with the billboard.
Yeah.
If you actually become friends with a podcaster, that meme gets a little.
They might tell a
creepier.
story about you.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, but you're still not in the room, and you're still talking to no one when you go, "Hey, that's me."
But you started during Legion, right? Like that was like your big YouTube.
Actually, during WOD, our first video was, it was something like 10 things I'm doing in WOD before Legion starts.
Right.
Classic.
Like a good top 10 list, good internet fare, and I made it. I had like a week off work, and I made it, and I scrapped it, and then I remade it. And I put it on, and then I told Evitel that she was doing a channel with me now, and to say hello. And then I subscribed to the new channel with all of my 5 email accounts and liked the video. And I went to sleep, and I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good video, pretty clickbaity, pretty cool. I reckon when I wake up, we're gonna have 1,000 views, easy game. And there were 6 views when I woke up the next day, which was 1 view more. But that might have been me just checking again. I'm not really sure how it works.
Oh, I was going to say you have a very kind mother.
So it was a slow start, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, we started like that. We had a StarCraft podcast back in 2010, and I think the first episode got 6 or 7 downloads, and at least 4 of them were me. And one of them I confirmed was my mom. So
that's awesome. My mom never downloads my podcast.
There you go.
She hates it. She refuses to. She tells all the friends not to listen.
Brutal.
She's like, how's the podcast doing, Tally? Oh, don't tell me. I don't care.
Damn.
Jeez.
That burns.
Things
Was
are
it
starting
rubbish
to-
again this week, Tally? Like it always is. Not that I'd know because I don't listen to it. Hate it. It's the worst. What's it about again? Don't tell me. I don't care.
I love to think that your mom is like a WoW hater. Just like, oh my God, you're still playing that dead game.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw your tier list. Shadowlands S tier. What's the matter with you? You are everything that's wrong with this community. Whatever it is. I don't care. I don't even know what it is.
Just comes in swinging, just like trying to push you. When are you going to cover a real MMO? Where's your Guild Wars 2 content?
In fairness, that is one of my go-to lines for like troll comments under videos and stuff. When someone's like really nasty, like, who's this? I hate this guy's mouth. He's so ugly. He's so stupid. I hate this guy. If I knew him, I'd punch him in the throat. My kind of standard go-to response is always, lol, nice try, dad. I told you not to bother me at work. So
Oh.
yeah.
That's a good one. I'll keep that in my back pocket for
No,
now.
you do have the dunks. I've seen your Twitter. You broadcast your most excellent dunks there, and they are quite superb. I enjoy your dunkage.
It's because I'm a horrible and mean person, so it's easy. It comes naturally to me.
As I've learned, people come swinging when World of Warcraft gets invoked in either direction. If you're critical of World of Warcraft, people are going to come after you. If you're complimentary about World of Warcraft, people are going to come after you.
Well, yes,
Speaking of which, Garrett, how did the comments go from your appearance on our podcast last week?
I made everybody mad, which I chalk up to be a win.
big scandal, Garrett.
Yeah, that's the attitude. Like, some people are like, if you make everyone happy, that's a win. But I say, no, you're right. Just piss everyone off. Like, upset them. Really upset them. Make them sad.
Yeah, no, we there was like legitimately good conversation going on our Discord, which was cool. I was like, oh, rad, folks tuned in, and I didn't like infuriate our own community, which was like, seemed like a good thing. But yeah, I mean, even like in the live. Like during the live stream, like it was funny watching like the seesaw of comments of, oh my God, we get it. This guy's just a WoW hater, just hates the World of Warcraft. While I'm talking about how much I enjoy Classic, and at the same time, like hearing the, oh man, I thought he liked Final Fantasy 14. Why is he gushing about World of Warcraft? I'm like, I like both. I like things about both. And then because of by nature of when you and I were making World of Warcraft content together, you being an illustrious host was like, so what happened to you after that ended? I was like, well, it was Shadowlands and I really didn't enjoy it. And so we had a conversation about not enjoying Shadowlands. And I think some people took that as this guy hates the game and wants to set it on fire.
Not a controversial opinion, I wouldn't have thought, not enjoying Shadowlands. I'd imagine,
yes. But and granted, I can see if you're currently enjoying World of Warcraft, that could feel like, why are you even bringing that up? It's old news now. Let's move on. It feels like you're reaching for a reason to be negative. So I don't know. It's how things go. It's how talking about what you enjoy and what you do not enjoy on the internet tends to go.
Well, as you know, I put Shadowlands in the S tier, so I was very offended, but I got over it because we like each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's so crazy about MMO content creation is the amount of time it takes to understand an MMO.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of dismiss a comment from the outside because they literally don't know.
Well, I think that time investment is where I think the time investment is where a lot of the anger probably comes from, right? Like, because you've got so much time invested, like it's the same place I think the energy of console wars come from, like car brand loyalty. When you're younger, and maybe you listening right now, consoles are expensive, and so you like if you're lucky, you get one. That's how it was for me as a kid, and so I convinced myself Sega Genesis was the best console on earth because it's all I had. I had to look at all the cool shit happening on Super Nintendo.
You were one of those kids.
Yeah, I had to look at all the cool shit happening on Super Nintendo and be like, it's not as good. And I went to school with that attitude, and I fought with my friends about it. That's where that came from. Cars,
well, that does make perfect sense, right? Because you're going to be invested in the one that you have and that represents you. Now, like the advantage that Nintendo kids had in that situation was obviously their one was better, and you had like an element of self-delusion about yourself, which you had to like really invest in, and that must have been hard. And
I know you're doing a bit, but I actually agree with you.
I respect the grift. To actually convince yourself that Genesis was better than SNES all that time is wild. But yeah, we had that. I had like I think it was for my 10th birthday or something. I think I had a cake that I designed myself, which was of Super Mario like punching Sonic, and Sonic was all like, "Ooh,"
Legit?
and all his teeth were coming out and
wow.
stuff, and Mario was all like, "Yeah, it's a me."
So you were predestined.
It was brilliant. I loved it. I was well into the
be-
console wars. I was invested heavily.
So what you're telling me is you were predestined to be a tribalist leader of MMO fandom.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, cool. Cool, good to know.
So it's that thing of like, and it makes sense, man. You know, there are loads of MMOs that I look at and I want them to be rubbish because I don't want to have to play them, right? Because MMOs waste so much of my time, and I get time to play games outside of WoW. And luckily, WoW's in a really good place right now. But I'm not going to talk about WoW loads because that's not what this podcast is about. But it's in a good place, which means my time for kind of playing other games. And I'm a father. I've got 2 young kids. My youngest son is having a Super Mario birthday party this month. He also loves Super Mario. When my brother found out that he loves Super Mario, he was like, "That's a bit suspicious, Tally. That seems like a very cool thing for a 2-year-old to like. Super Mario, what's going on?" But it's like, no, it was all his own doing. He saw the trailer for the Super Mario movie and he was hooked. He was on it, and now he's Super Mario mad. He doesn't hate Sonic though, so it's not completely 1 for 1. But yeah,
Sonic's a lot more
it's
accessible now than Sonic was in the 90s because Sega doesn't have a console
well, you can
anymore.
play it on your Nintendo, right? Exactly. So
it's irrelevant.
there's that. And we play Super Mario Party on the Switch, on the TV downstairs. It's fantastic. It's like a real genuine joy to kind of share that stuff with him. And, you know, he comes up here and when I do raid night, generally at nighttime, I put him to bed, and Evitel, my wife, puts the youngest, our daughter, to bed. But raid night, I can't do that, so he has to come up, and I set him up a little bed on the floor here, and he sits there and he watches me raid until he falls asleep. So he loves the arcade machine I've got in the back there. I've sometimes put Super Mario on that for him, or Mario Kart, and he just sits there watching it until about 3-4 a.m. till he eventually falls asleep, something like that. But it's all right because I give him a banana. It's fine.
You just hand waved all the comments that will come from that.
Yeah, and if he makes any noise, I'm like, "Shut up! I'm raiding."
Perfect.
Idiot. But yeah, no, for me, it's really good news. If like a new game that I kind of want to play, if I can hear that it's rubbish before I have to play it, that's like a joy. That's an absolute godsend.
I'm feeling about the new Suicide Squad game because I love Rocksteady, but I'm hearing it's kind of mid, and I'm like, I'll play it, but I don't need to play it right now. I can wait. Until
Things right. I'm inclined to hate games like that. You know, when that game was announced, I rolled my eyes back. Like I rolled my eyes so like far back in my head, I saw my own brain. You know, I just didn't fancy it at all. But I gotta say, every like clip that I see shared on social media of someone being really angry about it, like look at this trash. Every clip I see makes me laugh. And I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good.
It looks like a pretty.
I wouldn't mind that. I guess I could just watch it. Just put all the cutscenes together. Let me watch it. That'd be fine. I'll do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I want to play it, but luckily it doesn't sound like it's such a masterpiece that I have to play it right away.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
What game is?
Well, but
right?
then MMOs have the get in factor. You don't want to get in too late because then you missed out on all the fun. Except for you did, and I'm curious about that. So when did you start playing WoW?
Well, I started playing in Wrath of the Lich King. I'm a Wrath baby.
Oh, so you did get in on all
this
the fun
game
because
for
you
like
played during
15
the best
years.
expansion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I did stop playing in Cataclysm, and then I was away from the game, living my life. I was healthy. I was strong. I was happy. and then I met Evitel, and on our first date, she was like, "I feel like I should tell you. I play World of Warcraft and I really like it." And I was like, yo, that's awesome. I mean, I don't, but I did once and I kind of enjoyed it. So yeah, that's great. And you know, she just play it every now and then. She'd watch me play my Xbox 360. One of the earliest memories I have of my courtship with Evitel actually was I was sitting on my bed in my pants playing Mass Effect 3 and she was feeding me pizza because she was just enjoying watching Mass Effect 3 that much that
I had to
she
keep
didn't
going.
want to disturb
Yeah,
it.
the pizza was
I
flowing.
think most people just said, "No wonder you married her." I think that's what just ran through a lot of people's heads because that sounds wondrous.
And then she bought me a laptop on our first Christmas together so that I could, for my writing, right? Because I'm a published playwright, right?
Just
Not these
happened
days.
to have a decent video card.
No, it did not. It had like two megs of RAM. It had, I mean, I don't think it had an integrated graphics card. So it was, you know, a proper 8 frames a second job. If it was 14 frames a second, I was like in heaven. I was rocking. It was so good. But yeah, she got me that, and she was like, it's for your writing, but also there is a really good Recruit a Friend mount on right now. So if you did want to download WoW and play that would be pretty good.
Was that the touring rocket that they just threw back on that the what's the thing that we talked about on your podcast already?
I remember, Garrett. I didn't get it.
Trading
It was
post?
not for me. It was for her.
Yeah.
Ask her. It's in her mount collection. I don't know.
Yeah,
I got the joy of leveling up with, a hot girl.
It was probably the touring rocket, so you can now go get it off the trading
Would have been
post.
in the
Congratulations.
Zebra back then? Might have
Zebra
been
was like the
Zebra.
very first one.
Oh, that's the one I remember.
I feel like it was some kind of like
post-Wrath.
like Panther thing, but I'm probably wrong.
Oh,
like I say,
yeah,
I can't
I know.
remember.
I think
It
this
was
was-
mists at the time.
I think this was past the rocket. I think it was a cat mount. I think you're right. Because Zebra was like really, really freaking early.
I was worried about the commitment. I didn't want to like. What if the relationship went sour back in college? I was like, hey Kristen, you want to play Burning Crusade with me? What if like every time I logged in and it went bad, I just see my Recruit a Friend like not leveled up, and just like forever my character would be marred by this.
You
Katie,
wouldn't get your mount as well, and that would suck.
Right.
So Katie,
More importantly-
my current wife, and I dated from high school to college and broke up for 4 years. And we broke up right before Burning Crusade. And let me tell you, it's awkward. It wasn't. Can confirm was awkward.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess we got
Yeah.
lucky, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
But we're all worked out.
It did
eventually work out.
Yeah. We ended up leveling to play through Kata together, and a sweet thing that we did after we got back together was make sure we went through the Dark Portal together, because it was something we missed out on in our original relationship.
Cute.
Yeah,
Cute.
yeah. Haven't thought about that in a while.
So what possessed you to make that video? What you said you had a week off, but like you were feeling it. You said you're playwright, so you just like you wanted a creative outlet.
Yeah, I guess so. I was an actor for like 10 years. I went to drama school. I was like a professional actor before that. And then I was like professionally acting in London for 10 years. And I just kind of, I did Panto one year. You guys don't know what Panto is, but it's wild. With Cilla Black. You don't know who she is, but she's wild. And I was one of the ugly sisters in Cinderella. So I guess I was a professional drag queen for a while, which is kind of cool.
Money to see that.
Yeah, it was very. People did. It was great. But Cilla Black is this legend in our country. She was the first person signed to Apple. The Beatles label back in the 60s. She was the highest recording female artist in like British history, I think. She's like huge. And like she was a TV star then, like a TV like game show host in the 80s and 90s and stuff. So she's like this national treasure. And she was living in the town where the pantomime was happening. And she was the big star. So at the end of each night, she'd like do a little speech to the whole crowd, and she'd be like, "Thanks for coming, Chocks. Oh, it means a lot to me that you're all here." And then there'd be huge crowds waiting for her outside, to sign stuff and what have you afterwards every night. And then on the very last night of the show, she was like, "Well, I'm super glad that you're all here tonight, because this will actually be my last ever live performance, because I'm actually going to retire. This is my last ever show, and I'm so glad it was you all here. It's been an extra special night." And she was crying, and everyone in the audience was crying, and the people in the cast were crying. It was like, oh my God, this is a momentous occasion, like the retirement of this absolute legend. And the curtain came down, and she turned to me and she went, "I won't be crying tomorrow when I'm in fucking Barbados." And she retired from the stage, and I did as well. That show kind of really took it out of me. It was over Christmas and New Year, and I just didn't want to be an actor anymore. Basically, every job that came in from my agent after that, I was like, I'm gonna take a little break, and I just never got back into it. Basically, so I was kind of like lost for a few years and just knocking about. I did a terrible job, literally selling guidebooks at the Natural History Museum in London. Thank goodness, because that's where I met Evitel. On my very last day working there is when I met Evitel. So if I almost didn't go in that day,
Yeah.
So I would never have met her if I hadn't.
I've heard that story before. I didn't know it was that down to the wire. I didn't know it was your last day.
Oh, mate, even more than that. Literally, the only reason I even talked to her was because the guy that I worked with selling guidebooks, who I hated, asked her out, and she said yes. Otherwise, I never would have spoken to her.
So just out of spite of this dude,
Yeah,
you were like,
she'd started, and she was working at the ticket desk, and this guy came out, and his name's Zach, and it's always difficult to talk about because people think I'm talking about Asmongold, but it wasn't. He's never been to a museum in his life. But like, you know, like Zach came out one day, and he was like, Tally, have you seen that really new hot American girl who's working at the ticket office? I think she's really beautiful. I was like, yeah, she is pretty beautiful. Yeah, I have to agree with that. Very, very beautiful. And he was like, I think I should ask her out. Do you think I should ask her out? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, she's really beautiful, and Zach isn't. So she'll definitely say no, and that'll be really funny. So I was like, yeah, I definitely think you should ask her out, man. Definitely. Her first day, that's exactly what she wants to happen, is for you to ask her out. Do it. And he went off to the ticket desk, and he came back, and he got a number. She said yes. And I was like really annoyed. I was like, oh, thank God I'm not coming back to work here. This sucks. Everything about this place sucks. Now he's getting dates with hot girls. But then I thought, if she said yes to Zach, she'd probably say yes to me. If like that's where the bar was,
so what I'm
that
hearing,
low, I was like, yeah, on my tippy toes, I could probably clear that bar. So I took my lunch and I sat down, and literally as I was sitting down, I glanced to my left and I saw Evitel at the other side of the room stand up and leave. And I was like, this is not my style at all, but it's my last day here, so who cares? And I got up and I ran down the stairs, and I was like, look, hi, hey, I'm going away for a couple of weeks because I'm going to a music festival with my brother. But, you know, when I'm back, do you want to go for a date or something? She's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So, yeah, like it came down to the wire of literally if I'd sat down a second later and glanced in a different direction, if I'd taken my lunch at a different time, if Zach hadn't asked her out, if she hadn't said yes to Zach, something like that, yeah, we just never would have met, because that is the only opportunity we ever would have had to meet.
This
and that's kind of scary,
incident
man. That's literal split seconds.
Yeah, that's so what you're saying is you've always been this humble.
Dude, you haven't seen Zach. Come on, man. You can't say that.
I think, yeah. I think we've all.
It was less that he wasn't good looking, because of course he was, right? It's
Do you
just
ever
because
think to yourself, what if Zach is listening right now?
I hope he is. Well, because look, I'm sorry, loads of my audience will have heard this story already, but I have to tell you this story really quickly, and then we'll talk about video games, I promise. But she went on a couple of dates with Zach while I was away, which was fair enough, man. I wouldn't begrudge her that. Didn't go well, but Zach got a little bit obsessed with her, right? And started. I was there one night when he sent her 100 texts and like various voicemails as well. He was just like really into her. Who can blame her? She saw him. She saw. But on the day we were supposed to be going for our first date, we were texting. I texted her the whole time I was away as well, like sending her photos of the like festivals and stuff that we were going at with my brother. And he went up to her. I wish she could tell this story, but she's not here. And he was like, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to bother you, but can we just go and get a coffee? There's just one thing I have to say. And so she was like, yeah, okay, sure, fine. And they got a coffee at lunchtime. And he was like, so, I don't know if you know this guy Taliesin. And she was like, oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. And she's thinking, well, I'm going out for a date with him tonight, actually. And he was like, yeah, well, I thought maybe you did, just on the off chance. Don't know why. But, he's bad news. He's really bad news.
Oh,
in
wow.
fact, he's in jail. And he was like,
story. I've heard tales of the jail story.
In jail? And he was like, yeah, he's in jail. It's really bad. He got sent to jail. So he's in jail now. So, I mean, so you wouldn't be able to talk to him anyway. But, just in case, you probably shouldn't, because he's a bad guy who's in jail. And she was like, well, that's very strange. Okay. Oh, well, thanks, Zach. That's really, really nice. She didn't even drop this on me until like 2 hours into our date, when it was going very, very well. She was like, well, I got to say, I'm very glad you're not in jail. Like, what? He just made it up. He made it up. I was not, in fact, in jail. I was, in fact, having a date. So don't feel sorry for him. Man's a menace.
it's what I'd expect a 5-year-old to give me, like the advice from a 5-year-old to be like, hey, 5-year-old, this girl like is about to go on a date with a guy that I think is gonna like, it's over once she goes on a date with this guy. What should I do? A 5-year-old would go, tell her he's in jail.
Yeah, totally.
That is an interesting strategy.
And that is what prompted you to make a video about Warlords of Draenor?
Oh no, sorry, we've gone way back. We've gone way back. No, but I was working as a tour guide, and you kind of you develop like a kind of persona, right? When you're a tour guide, because essentially, like, you know, it's a very, very informative stand-up comedian, basically. And we were going around on these. They were called ducks. They're these World War II amphibious vehicles. They're American made, and they served at like D-Day and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they can drive around and they go on water. It's
Yeah.
great. And so I developed like this kind of almost character, but like persona, I guess.
It's like if
doing
you go on
acts.
the Jungle Cruise at Disney.
Yeah, totally.
Extremely
totally.
campy, informative tour guide.
All of that, except apart from the informative bit, probably. Yeah. And I was, you know, I had a little bit of money and I had a bit of spare time. So I bought my very first kind of like shoebox gaming PC, and you know I was playing WoD, and it was amazing. Like I went into I remember first time I set up that PC, it's literally this big, and I went into LFR, the first raid in WoD, and it was running at like 18, 19 FPS, like in LFR. It was like butter. It was incredible. It was so smooth. It was wild. I was like, this is it. This is the life. This is my future.
Gaming
and
will never get
I'm
better
a raider
than this.
now. Yeah.
My God.
And I was finding myself listening to a lot of podcasts, The Instance being the main one, and starting to watch a lot of YouTube content. And yeah, just, you know, I've always written stuff. Like I say, I wrote plays and stuff before too. So it just seemed like a natural thing to do. And yeah, and like our voice was just a bit different from a lot of stuff on the scene at the time. So it kind of, I guess it just got traction and stuff like that. So yeah, ended up in it. And that was, gosh, we've been doing it professionally now since late 2016, I want to say. So however long that is, 8 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Geez, yeah, because I mentioned this on your show last week that I found you all during BFA, and you felt very refreshing because most content around WoW and BFA it wasn't about playing the damn game. It was a lot of people talking about what was wrong with it, and critiquing it, which I don't mind. Obviously, I like critiquing games myself, but I was really feeling like every piece of WoW content I was consuming was just that. And I was just getting to a point where I was like, I just miss people talking about playing the game, things you can do in the game, achievements you can get. Like, are you actually playing the game? And so when I found you all, like it was just refreshing. It was a nice break from how I felt the content cycle had become at the time. And this isn't to cast aspersions on everyone because I wasn't watching everyone at the time, but the people that were coming across my feed at the time, I was like, okay. I'd like to actually hear from somebody who's just playing the game and getting things done, as opposed to being mad that the war campaign kind of pales in comparison to what was going on in Legion with the Order Hall campaigns. Which fair, but I'd like to be fair enough.
There's a joy with being just like completely immersed in a community and a scene, right? Like it's fun when you do it with music. It's fun when you do it with like other kind of IPs and stuff like that. And it's fun when you do it with a video game as well. Yeah. And, you know, the idea of just chatting in a scripted way so we could, you know, format it and, you know, have like some production going on as well. And it wasn't just like chatting, but, you know, you could reference whatever memes are in the community. You can do a little cold open kind of skit or whatever, where if there's a cinematic, oh, look, you're recreating the cinematic, but in a funny way. Like, you know, just like being that kind of, like almost like a satire show, almost like a kind of news satire show, but like just completely immersed in the world of this, like, you know, not totally mainstream community, right? Which is, it's just super fun. It's great. And we get that with like, we do that with Final Fantasy 14 and everything else as well. It's terrific.
Oh, that was definitely the energy I saw. I mean, immediately I was like, oh, John Oliver. This is John Oliver of World of Warcraft.
You say John Oliver just because he's British? Because I always thought John Stewart.
No, he's doing the
No, I
desk
just want to call you out.
No?
Just...
Oh, no, yeah, very much based on John Oliver. No, totally. Yeah, absolutely. That's
your
exactly
other
what we were
John
doing.
would do the center desk, Tally here did the side desk, and then the images would appear next to him in the funny sort of thumbnail-y
Well,
kind
that
of way.
I think of as Stephen Colbert more than anything else.
But that would pan, or excuse me, the other thing. You don't like when I say
If
pan.
you listen
'cause
to
it's
some
not
of
true.
our like very earliest videos, and particularly the very earliest episodes of the Weekly Reset, like the rhythm of the jokes is, I mean, it's pure Jon Stewart. Not Jon
John
Stewart,
Oliver.
sorry. John Oliver. It's pure John Oliver. It's like lifted kind of wholesale, and that was the point, right? It was like, oh, these shows are really cool. I love watching these shows on like YouTube. It would be cool if there was something like this for WoW. That would work. Totally, that would work. Let's do that.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, granted, fellow theater kid, I'm getting a little bit crafty on you here. So, but it is fun to hear your journey into that. Did you find a lot of resistance? Because it seems like when we look at the widest catch of long-term World of Warcraft or any MMO players, it's about, can you name the first raid and all this weaponry? Can you remember the boots that was worn by the guy who killed Ragnaros for the first time? But that was never really your style. That was never really the purpose of the show.
Are you talking about the history of WoW?
Just that's a lot of claim to frame.
He's talking about credentials. You're
Yeah.
talking,
Well, yeah, but
hardcore credentials.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you a top player? Are you a top raider? Can you give like hints on this and like, guides and stuff like that? And
Well, then you
how
can-
well do you know the game? What is your credentials from playing from the very start? Like,
And you
do
can
have
coast
that?
on that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ride
And
that for years.
yeah, prove your fandom, exactly. And you get that with everything, right? And particularly, I came from a music background of being in bands and stuff as well, and that was very much the case there as well. So no, we kind of sidestepped that by just doing cringe jokes instead. But that's the genius, right? Because lots of people hate me personally, and most of them hate me for really good reasons. But a sizable proportion of them hate me because they've just never got the joke. And they've seen the show and they've been like, this is very cringe and weird, and why is he speaking like that? And because the humor is a bit cringy, it's always, and young edgy people don't understand this, but it's always been more popular with like slightly older people and slightly more mature people, because they don't care about being cool and they can laugh at cringy humor.
I've always found that I think it comes from a place of like the humor is derived from a confident character. And I think people misinterpret it that you are actually that conceited and that confident, which I've always found kind of humorous, because I've met you in real life. We have had many conversations off air, and I'm like, Tally is a very reasonable person with plenty of his own critiques about World of Warcraft. But I just feel, and you do critique the game on your own content, but for some reason I think you've been put in the bucket of positive WoW creator. Be that true or not, I think that's kind of a bucket you've ended up in, and I think as tends to be, because there is so much content to consume, you get painted with a broad brush.
Yeah, I think that, and you know what? I think that's fair. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't create content about something that I didn't, on a fundamental level, enjoy and want to be good. When Shadowlands came along, and the enjoyment did get sucked out of the game a little bit for me personally, just didn't really play it and didn't really make any content on it either, which was a shame, because my kids couldn't really eat, but they're only small, like they don't need much, a couple of grapes. We got one of those like hamster bottles with a little
the little ball bearing
on whenever they wanted to. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Filled it with soup, so easy in the end, thanks patrons. But yeah, so it's that thing of like, obviously we like WoW, right? And you want it to be good, and why else would you be making the show, right? So of course you can joke about it, and you can be cheeky about it, and you can say when something is really bad. But I mean, the other problem we've had is that we refuse to apologize for people not getting the joke. So with that tier list thing that I just showed you, we first put that tier list out a couple of years ago, and I still see people on social media now being like, you can't trust Tally, he's an idiot, he put Shadowlands like S tier in his expansion tier list. They don't get it, and that's fine, that's cool, they don't get the joke. And because we refuse to kind of make allowances for people who don't get the joke. It kind of, everything we then do just kind of solidifies this kind of mistaken reason why they hate us, and it's great. I mean, I like it. I find it very funny.
I'm sure.
Yeah, obviously, like overall, we're gonna be more positive about WoW than the average human being, because we play WoW and we make WoW content and we watch WoW content as well. So yeah.
I have to imagine, by the way, I'm sure there are people who don't get the joke. I bet there's a small percentage of people who are like, you can't trust this idiot, he put Shadowlands in S tier, who are they themselves joking. Their joke is that they're taking it seriously, but they actually are in on the joke and they're just trying to screw with you.
Oh, this is great. Clearly, you've never been on Reddit, and I am such a fan of that. I think you should stick with that. I
started that comment by saying I do believe there are people who don't get the joke, but there's some that are just tooling with you, and you're just
for sure.
unaware of the fact. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and so during like the whole kind of WoW exodus of Shadowlands, when Final Fantasy 14 started really taking off on the webs, and you didn't jump on that straight away.
No, I was super late.
Garrett. I don't know about you, Carl, but
you were already playing.
It took you a while to kind of get on with that, right?
Yeah, Kyle was already playing. I just wasn't that interested. It's like meme status now in our community. There's a video that came out 2+ years ago when Kyle and I were starting to we popped the seal on this YouTube project. And originally we were doing like a major gaming news per week, like kind of touching on different things. And this guy had failed to get me into Final Fantasy 14 for so long that he pitched me, what if we talk about the Exodus as a piece of news, because it is happening. And isn't that fascinating to you? Even you, Garrett, Mr. I just don't want to play that game. And it worked. I was like, you insidious bastard. So I started actually with interest researching the game or researching what was going on, why people were interested. But in that video, if you go back and watch it, there's a now infamous quote from me where I go, well, I'll tell you what I sure as shit am not doing, playing Final Fantasy 14. And that is now, I'm kind of thankful for Kyle multiple times has complimented. He's like, dude, you take that so well. I'm like, it's hilarious, dude. It's so goddamn funny. Like, I'm not sure. I don't think we'd have, like, to a certain degree, I think it has created a storyline that like, I'm not even sure how, like, true it is. I think if I had stuck with the game long enough, I would have liked it anyway without having said that. But I think because there is that quote and people can dunk on me for it, now that I'm enjoying the game, I think it has given us a bump that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So, it took some convincing. I wasn't very interested. I didn't grow up playing Final Fantasy, and I'm not even sure at the time. I was thinking, how much would it even have mattered if I had played Final Fantasy? Turns out a lot. There's so many references to other Final Fantasies in Final Fantasy 14. It's kind of a Final Fantasy theme park in that way. But at the time, I was like, well, it doesn't matter because it's like an anthological series and no two connect to each other unless they are an actual hard sequel or prequel, which is mostly just 7. But, there's a couple others that got extra ones.
Your desire to be correct is immense.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I was like, okay, it just looks like another MMO. I've played other MMOs. I've played so many tab targeting MMOs that it's kind of hard to sell me on them now. And I'm feeling that way now about survival games after Pal World, because I rather enjoy Pal World. I'm having a good time with it, but I think I'm also done punching trees for wood. If I ever have to punch a tree for wood ever again, I think I'm immediately going to uninstall the game because I'm just over that
punch
mechanic.
Trees for wood in Pal World?
Are you doing a bit? I literally can't tell if you're doing a bit.
No,
it's a bog standard, well, not quite bog standard, but it's a pretty bog standard survival game. So if you've played like your Minecrafts or your Valheims, like it's one of those.
Cool. But with like Pokemon, right?
With somewhat legally distinct Pokemon called pals. Yeah.
But like, I like survival games. Our guild has got a Valheim server. It's awesome. Yeah. But so like I watched that with interest because I remember talking to you in the after show and pre-show and stuff about of WoW Killer about Final Fantasy 14 because in that space of time when I started making WoW videos, the reason I kind of did that was as much as anything because we were at the tail end of WoD at that time, of Warlords of Draenor. Yeah. For people who aren't familiar with WoW expansions, Warlords of Draenor was you know, as low as it had got in WoW at that point. It was a really slow releasing expansion. The patch cadence was terrible, like huge swathes of time without any content at all. There's just not much to do. So I ended up making videos. But before that, I had jumped into a number of different MMOs to kind of play alongside it just to kill time. And I picked up Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2 and ESO as well. And I mean,
Heavensward? That was pretty early in post Realm Reborn relaunch.
I'm not sure when I actually got to Heavensward, but it was current content when I did. So I think that's 2015, 16. I'm not sure.
You
I'm
went
not
shopping.
good on my timeline.
You went shopping.
Yeah.
You did them all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. And like, and I loved Final Fantasy 14 was great. I really enjoyed it. And Heavensward is an absolute banger. And I played through the story of Heavensward, and you know, there was basically nothing else to play after that, right? Story wise at the time. So I was like, okay, that's really cool.
How dare you? Go do extremes. Get good.
Yeah, totally.
He had stamina or whatever it's called at the time.
Oh, that's right, stamina or whatever the hell that mechanic was.
It never had the kind of end game get good vibe, and even more so in those days. You know, it was you know a couple of people who we were in contact at Blizzard who had kind of reached out to us because they'd seen our videos and stuff. They were really into it as well, so it was nice talking to them about the story and stuff. But yeah, it was ESO that really was the one that stuck with me and that I carried on playing after that, because it was the one that was least like WoW in how it felt and how it controlled. And yeah. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, because
exactly. Not the best game by any means, but it was different. It was the most different, so it felt good.
Yeah. I fell off of ESO because I was like, oh crap, I actually have to pay attention to this story. I kind of like it, and that's why I stopped playing it, because WoW, outside of like raid nights, is usually like it's a second screen experience. Like I just kind of vibe and zone out, and I do my farming or I level up an alt and that kind of a thing. And so when I got into ESO and I'm like, oh, there's actually a good Dark Brotherhood story here. I don't want to pay this much attention. So I left. And had I stuck with 14 my first time long enough, I probably would have also kind of come across that. But I bounced off 14 really, really early on because I tried it before Kyle had ever asked me to play it. And I started in Gridania, which I'm now on record for kind of tearing Gridania a new one. I think it's a really kind of standard-ass forest, and it doesn't do a whole lot for me. And I was very surprised by all the load walls. So I was just like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah, the load walls they're a big deal. And I remember that was harder the second time I went back.
Yeah.
Because I kind of went back and I played through it again probably in about, 2019, maybe 2020.
Okay.
Just because I didn't have much else to do one time, and I was like, I enjoyed Final Fantasy 14. Maybe I should go back to that. But I couldn't get back into my old account because I'd forgotten my password, and
the Mog Station
I
is a
could not
thing.
recover my password. Yeah, it's the worst experience ever.
Mog Station
It's
is a little
like
rough.
it's so bad. I just could not get it. So I had to start a new account, and I played through it again. Didn't quite get to Heavensward this time. I was like, okay, I'm fine, whatever. But by this point, Bethan Walker was really kind of, making a name for herself playing Alizé as a voice actor. And Bethan Walker is a childhood school friend of mine. Like we went to high school together. We were in drama class together. We did like extracurricular kind of drama class together. And like she's one of my genuine all-time best friends, right? And it was weird because she was doing this voice acting gig, which, I wouldn't say she didn't care about it, obviously, but she had no idea what it was going to turn into. It was just a gig like any other at the time. And, I'm her friend who plays video games and plays MMOs, right? So she'd be like, hey, do you play Final Fantasy 14? Have you heard me in Final? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah, love it. It's so good. Oh, man. Oh, I love it's so good. Oh, you're so good in that game. It's so amazing. I'm not playing it. I don't know.
I loved you in the small amount of voice
bad.
cutscenes you had in Heavensward.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew that at some point I was going to have to go back through and play it. And then when like the big kind of renaissance discovering of Final Fantasy 14 happened during Shadowlands, and you know, so many, it almost felt cliche at the time to kind of, you know, start streaming Final Fantasy 14 if you play WoW a lot, and going through the story and being amazed by the amazing storytelling and kind of, not that it doesn't deserve it, but because that's what everyone was doing, it just felt like you were playing not you were much later, but like when I did it, it felt like I was playing like a meta kind of stream game where, you know,
it's what WoW streamers did.
Yeah, people would be very expectant for you to react a certain way in certain moments.
Well, I'm here to tell you that hasn't gone away. That still very much exists.
Oh yeah, I know it.
We got our
it's always been one of my problems streaming the game.
Yeah, we got our freshest batch of "Why didn't you cry at this part? You clearly have emotional issues." Those comments came recently. So I will say they really are few.
Yeah, I get the exact same. So I don't really cry at bits that people think I should cry at, but I get really into bits that other people don't care about. So
same.
I'm like, is this not a meme? This should be a meme. This is amazing. Don't people love this guy? And people are like, no one cares about that guy.
It's
like,
not
I love this guy.
It's not the approved person to love. It's not the approved person to love. Who's the guy that you love that people don't love, by the way? Do you know?
Oh, dude, I like just random kind of like tradesmen and people like that.
Oh, so it'd be like Kyle with Hori Boulder. You love
Hori Boulder. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Every time he shows up for me, I'm like, oh, great.
I love Hori Boulder. He's brilliant. Yeah, he's great, but he's a bit too mainstream for me. No, I prefer the more underground dudes. Yeah.
I've effed up. I've invited a bigger hipster than Kyle to the podcast.
No, but it was fun. So then I did kind of, you know, I thought, well, if there's ever a time to go back and play through Final Fantasy 14 again, like this is the time. But I didn't want to stream it right from the very beginning, just in case I didn't like it. And I didn't want that to happen on stream because I value my life too much, frankly.
Yeah, I didn't plan to not stream Realm Reborn, and I'm glad I didn't, because like, it's slow as shit.
Get a sense of ownership.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
and I
think Realm Reborn gets an unfair rap. I think Realm Reborn is just fine.
I think Stormblood gets an unfair rap. I think Realm Reborn gets exactly the rap it deserves.
Totally. I think every expansion is a banger, and like I started playing it again just in private, and I bopped through Realm Reborn. It was easier to bop through then than it had been the first two times I'd done it. So I was like, okay, this is good. They've sped this up. This is excellent, cool. And
I'm glad you're here to talk about that then, because it's completely different than my experience.
Oh really?
I don't read a ton. I didn't really start reading for fun until my 20s, and even then, it's like if I do 4 books in a year, that's a big year for me. Like that's a huge year. That's like I discovered the Hunger Games kind of year. But I was back on my reading shit. I had just discovered the Locked Tomb series, which starts with Gideon the Ninth, if anyone's a fan of that. And so I was in this mindset where I just like bite off a little bit every night. I get cozy and I read a little bit. Help me fall asleep at night, like kind of settle my mind. And I started playing Realm Reborn like that. And eventually I got really invested and I looked forward to it. It was like my wind down. Every night I would like sit down to do like 2 hours of Realm Reborn, and then I'd go to sleep. Before I knew it, I gave a shit about every character except for Alphinaud, and it was great.
And nothing changed. Yeah.
Oh no, I love Alphinaud now, but oh man,
okay,
Realm Reborn, I wanted to kick that little kid so bad in his exposed midsection.
But this is like that was one of the things that I really liked about one of the things I really connected with Final Fantasy 14 was I didn't like Alphinaud. I found him really annoying. I felt like he'd been kind of promoted above his station and he was a bit of a Nepo baby. And usually that would make me not like him, but the game knew that too. Like that wasn't a mistake. They weren't presenting a character that they wanted to be likable in an unlikable way by mistake. You know, like dude's an idiot and makes huge mistakes, like sets up a whole gang that turns on him and beats him up, and like, you know, is bad at the job that he's decided he deserves. And that's the story that the game tells. And that's actually really cool because I was not expecting that, because it's like usually if there's an annoying character who's kind of made themselves important in the story, I'm supposed to like them. And when I don't, I'm like, well, this is stupid. I hate this
They
guy. He
dedicate
sucks.
like an entire expansion to him learning from the mistake of Realm Reborn. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. And everyone just like making fun of him the whole time, like everything he did. And that's the thing. So I was playing Realm Reborn in private, and even though they had sped it up a lot, man, you never get used to those like 80 quests or something, or 150 quests after the first set of credits, you know, in the patch content.
Realm Reborn
And you're following them down the list, and you're like, I got how long to go? Wait, Moonbreeder's not even for another like 20 quests. What's going on? You never quite get used to that. But Heavensward was even better than, and I loved Heavensward first time I played through it, but it was even better on my third account. Like the second time I probably played through it. And I loved it. I'd forgotten stuff like the campfire scene, which I think is like a seminal moment in MMO kind of history. And
I think that is
one of the most influential kind of scenes in MMO history. I think it's like so good.
It's when
and the whole vibe of that expansion is just so great. And I loved it. I loved every moment of Heavensward.
The campfire is when I realized I actually cared. Like properly cared. I was like, oh, characters just talking around a campfire, and I am leaning in. I'm like, okay, this game's got me.
Totally. Yeah, you and like a million other people, I'd imagine. And going into Stormblood then. And it was kind of during Stormblood, after the main story quest of Stormblood into the patch content of Stormblood, that I was like, well, I think I'm really enjoying this. And I just want to be playing it, so I might as well start streaming it as well. And we even like released a few videos about Final Fantasy 14 on our channel at the time as well.
Because it was around that time. I think I want to say a month or so after your Salvo 14 videos was when I was like properly getting into it. And I think I pitched you and never heard back on it. I'm like, hey, Tally, wouldn't it be hilarious if we put out one more episode of WoW Killer, but it was just about Final Fantasy 14 and we didn't address the fact that we never mentioned WoW on the whole episode? I still think that would have been hilarious, and I'm only...
Hey, dude, we had a sponsor lined up for it as well. We should have done it. I'm sorry.
That's right. We were still getting hit up by sponsors for WoW Killer like a half a year after it went off the air. Yeah.
Brutal, man.
It was a properly bad business decision to end that show, but yeah, you know, we were just scheduling sucked.
So
scheduling that show was awful.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, I watched your video. It was the Praetorium's too long, right? Wasn't
the curious case of the Praetorium.
Yeah, about how it's all unskippable and it's unforgivable.
No, wait. Sorry, that was it was analyzing Praetorium far too thoroughly because it is bad.
Yeah.
They changed it, but they're still.
They did change it, and they did all my ideas. Now, I'm not saying they watched the video, but so you know, again and again.
I will say, if they listen to you, then you're at fault for stripping out some of the best Gaius lines. So actually, I am mad at you.
I look, the way I fixed Praetorium, I fixed it without cutting a single line. Because that's the thing I wanted to do. I was like, we cut this without cutting a single line, and I cut something like 8 or 10 minutes out of it, and the gameplay ratio to kind of cutscene ratio was greatly increased. My fix was great, but we approached it like we did any WoW video, and exactly like any WoW video we would do, like the exact same vibe, the exact same style, and that style is what people call us shills for in World of Warcraft, and we were absolute haters in the world of Final Fantasy 14 for that video.
Fascinating.
Yeah, very fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that's interesting.
So was it like to theorize on that? It takes so much investment to talk about an MMO. You have to know your ins, outs. You try not to be wrong, but you know you've got this kind of character going that can help kind of ease that audience in. What's the difference? Clearly, the WoW people acknowledge you have this bulk of information, and getting to Praetorium's not a few amount of hours. So was the amount of hours not respected? Where do you feel?
No, it was just the vibe, and honestly, I don't blame people for it. I think there was there was simultaneously in the Final Fantasy 14 community at the time, there was simultaneously like a great joy that people were coming to their game and playing it and giving it the love and appreciation that they knew for years that it deserved, right? So there's a real joy in that. And that's why, you know, so many content creators, they had such a good time streaming and playing and making videos about their MSQ journey, because, well, another thing is, you know, most people love the story of Final Fantasy 14. That's the thing they love most about it. But most people only play it once, you know, because ults aren't a thing in Final Fantasy 14. So they know they love this story, but they've only actually gone through it themselves once, because it's a huge, not everyone just forgot their password like I did 3 times, right? So it's a huge time investment to play through the whole of Final Fantasy 14 just for fun, or, you know, and it's, I know you can go back and play other bits and stuff like that, but it's a bit janky. It's not like totally easy to do. And so there's this great joy in the community of seeing people, you know, play through these moments that meant a lot to you and that you were seeing again for the first time, let alone the way other people reacted to them. And so that's the joy. But also understandably, and I don't blame anyone for this, there was a sense of defensiveness and wariness, and, you know, this idea that there was a lot of bandwagoning going on with the best will in the world, like, you know, and there was a lot of kind of muscling in, you know, people that had spent years kind of looking down on this game that they loved were suddenly kind of making loads of money out of playing it, and becoming kind of big personalities in their community. And, you know, maybe they had gone to the Final Fantasy 14 community to get away from a lot of these personalities in the first place, and they didn't appreciate these personalities following them over, you know. And it's like when, on a basic human level, it's like when, you know, you're a kid and you discover a cool band, and then they release an album which is really successful, and suddenly the most normie idiots in the entire world love this band that you love. And you're like, dude, this album even sucks. Why do you even like this album? I love this band, but you're an idiot. Their good album was like this one and this one and this one. And like, so it makes sense to be, and I get it. I totally understand it. I'm a hipster. I feel like that about stuff. And I completely understand why the Final Fantasy 14 community was like that a lot of the time. So a lot of streamers and content creators found that when they finished their MSQ journey, they weren't seeing the same kind of numbers and success and stuff as they, you know, had gotten used to. And then they started talking about Final Fantasy 14 in a way that they talk about Endgame WoW or whatever MMO they come from. And no one wants to hear that. No one cares about that, really, because that's not why anyone wants to watch someone going through MSQ, right? So it's like, it created this kind of weird vibe for a little while, I think, in the community. Yeah, and I don't blame them at all. And I don't blame people for being defensive on a video called Dissecting the Praetorium because it's bad, right? Where it opens up like, you know, this MMO is amazing. I love it. Here are I set out my credentials in that game at the beginning of the video because I think it's important to do that. You're dropping in that I'm friends with Bethan Walker, right? But I can understand how you know, from a certain point of view, it just looked like a WoW player coming over and shitting on their game. So I get that. Yeah, of course I get that. Totally. And then if they watched my stream and I wasn't crying at the bits that they were crying at, you know. Yeah. So I mean, I was never very impressed by Emmett Selk. I always that's not true. What? As a character and a baddie, I'm very impressed by Emmett Selk.
I will hang up on you
but
right now.
I just don't stan him, right?
Watch yourself.
This man
he's terrible. He's awful, and I hate him. And that's good. That's good. Like, what he's doing is terrible and bad.
Oh, well, yes.
And that's good. That's good baddie writing, right? Yeah. But then, you know, in my chat, there'd be loads of people like, well, he's kind of right. And it's like, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's definitely not. Like, no, he's not.
Oh, we got that too. Oh, yeah. The best is the Varys cutscene. The Varys cutscene is like a big vibe check. You're just like, all right, who in this room agrees with this man?
But you were also about to argue with the man who just self-proclaimed himself a hipster. He has a whole room chanting Emmett's name. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, listen, that's if you have hipster tendencies, streaming Final Fantasy 14 in general is dangerous because everyone's going to tell you what you're going to love before you get there to make a decision yourself. And that is dangerous. And it's
and that makes you second guess your own reactions a lot of the time as well.
No, dude, it's made me like extra thankful that our MSQ streams have as many people as they do because like there's just too many people. There's just too many people for me to even like pay attention to what people are telling me I should care about. It's just like that's obviously beyond all of the normal measurements of success and the fact that so many of you watching have like kind of like legitimately changed our lives in a really rad way. It's also like so many people show up. It's like, okay, cool. It's kind of difficult for me to be led by the nose by the crowd because it's at a certain point. I'm also just so worried about someone yelling spoilers in chat that at a certain point I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna pay attention to the game now. And if I missed the meme moment that you love, I apologize, but we'll come back around to it. Don't worry. So it's real. And yeah, if you got hipster tendencies, I think it could be a major turnoff. Like,
no, but thank you for
legitimately
walking me through that journey because I know YouTube. There's a lot of numbers and sometimes the red, and they let you know when a video doesn't do well. So I just for my own curiosity, I appreciate you breaking down that video I very much enjoyed back when I was getting into the game.
But the last thing I want to say on that front too is that there will allow, and this will I think will always be true, and it's not even a game community thing. I think there is just a certain audience on YouTube that will come and comment solely based on the thumbnail, solely based on the headline. The content of the video there within is completely irrelevant. So, if you're baiting in someone with, maybe the jailer's actually kind of okay. And within that video, you have actually a really level-headed criticism of why that story probably isn't the best. It doesn't matter because you already flew your flag on the thumbnail, so you're going to get the people commenting. And in regards to your Praetorian video, like I haven't seen it because I've avoided so much Final Fantasy 14 content for fear of spoilers for a long time now. But you flew that flag of this is bad. So you got people who didn't even watch the video and went in and commented. We got that on our first proper Final Fantasy 14 video, which was X-WoW Podcaster Tribe's Weeb game. We got a handful of comments that were just like, it's not just a Weeb game. And it's like, the video is about how I'm actually getting into it and kind of digging this shit. But, we flew a flag for, dramatic, funny purposes, and not everybody thought it was funny. And I'm not saying you have to.
That's fine. Like, people are perfectly entitled to react on just a thumbnail and a title and stuff like that. And it's understandable and they're within their rights to do that. But that doesn't change the fact they're wrong. It's like, it is understandable that they react like that. Yeah. They have every right to react just based on a title and thumbnail. But they are also wrong to do that because it's not the content of the video. And so it's like anything, we're all human beings. We can all feel two different things at the same time. It's fine. It's like,
And I'm with Melissa in chat as the clickbait titles aren't the best, but they sure freaking seem to work. Like they sure, like a middling, objective title doesn't grab as many people. And now YouTube has that whole, hey, upload 3 thumbnails and we'll tell you which one does the best. And oh man, I loved last week. Last week was such confirmation that clickbait works because we had 3 thumbnails. We did a video about the whole FanFest system because we have now seen the entire hype cycle that is FanFest, which is quite different from BlizzCon, which is what Kyle and I are used to, and obviously what you're used to, Tally. But we had one that was just like how FanFest works, real plain and simple thumbnail. And I tried something different. I was like, well, take us off of it. So just kind of, because it is kind of a think piece on the FanFest hype cycle. And then we did one with us, like you made it, with us laughing.
Yep, it was very fun.
We literally look like we're snorting, and Kyle was like, let's call this one a very serious chat about FanFest. And we did that one.
Fabulous thumbnail.
And then I was, because I got YouTube brain, I'm like, all right, I'm going to grab us, and I'm going to say, ex-BlizzCon fans talk about FanFest.
And the picture was all blown out.
And it was super high contrast. Yep. I did the super high contrast bullshit that all the YouTubers do. And guess which one won?
I didn't even know you could do that on YouTube. That's amazing. I love the whole. I haven't looked at our analytics for about 5 years. Oh my God. That's Evan's job. So it's my privilege. It's my privilege. I don't have to do that.
Once you get into it, I mean, I like it. The broad strokes, I think, become pretty obvious. Like, like in the first
Oh,
24
yeah, for
hours,
sure.
if your
You
video
got
is going to hit or not. Like,
Yeah.
So.
It's the game. It's like anything else, isn't it, man? So it is what it is. But yeah. So I guess I wouldn't hold it against a Final Fantasy 14 community member being suspicious about some WoW dude coming over and playing their game, right? You know, I get it. I get it. And then I remember trying to think of the most controversial things I said on stream. I haven't got much of a filter. I don't know if you noticed. And everyone was like so. Towards the end of Shadowbringers,
are we entering the Taliesin gets canceled from Final Fantasy 14 segment?
No, because like all of this came because the way I played Final Fantasy 14 changed almost by mistake on stream. I always enjoyed streaming it. I always enjoyed chatting with the chat about it. I'm like you guys. I'm an incredibly slow player in that respect. I like to read everything. I like to talk about everything as we go through. And one of the reasons I was like really happy to come on this podcast today was because I haven't played Final Fantasy 14 in like a year and a half. But finally, I noticed on your stream, you got to the bit of Final Fantasy 14 this week, which is where I stopped playing last time. So finally, we're on a level, and we can talk about it as equals, and without fear of spoiling each other. Finally, after all of this time, and it's a beautiful thing. But like, so the way I played Final Fantasy 14 was wild. Endwalker was coming. And I had not finished Shadowbringers yet, even though I'd been bopping it, you know, because obviously when I was playing it off stream, it was going like the clappers, but then on stream, it just slows down to a grinding gear. And it's, you know, you're talking about everything, it's taking a long time. And I was like, well, look, Endwalker's in a couple of days. I just need to start playing this on stream, and I will not finish until we have finished Shadowbringers, and hopefully we'll be done in time for Endwalker. And I was like halfway through Shadowbringers or something, and I thought, how hard can it be? So we sat down and this stream started, and of course it just did not stop, and it just kept going and going and going, and we got to the end of like the first Shadowbringers credits, and then we were going through. I was like, good, we're into the patch content. Awesome. And you know, those first couple of patches after the main story, they're pretty short, they're pretty simple. So we were going through that. I was like, we're definitely gonna get this finished. And it just kept on going. And I can't remember how many hours it was in the end, but you know, we had a long time to go when I started that stream before Endwalker dropped. And we didn't quite finish by the time the servers went offline for Endwalker to be released. It was wild. It was crazy. So I was obviously sleep deprived. I was obviously, you know, kind of a little bit semi-hallucinogenic, sort of manic, certainly. And we got to a point, you know, we were going through all the very, very sad Shadowbringers stuff, you know, with the camel bird. I forget his name. I'm so sorry. What's the camel bird called? You know, the camel bird. He's like a bird, but he's a camel.
Don't tell me, chat. Don't. Oh crap! What's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the scene that everybody, Preach included, told me I was soulless for not crying at. Shit. It starts with an S. Seto.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you have it the whole time and you're just letting me flail, you asshole?
I love Seto, by the way. Seto is an awesome dude. I love him so much.
The Duliage scene right before the Seto Ardbert scene is what ended me. And so by the time we got to talking pet flying dog, I was just like, I already had my emotional moment.
Oh, there's only so much you can cry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But everyone was really looking forward to me crying at Seto, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you can tell when the chat is like gearing up to them expecting you to cry, right? Because they were kind of, you could feel it in the chat. It was happening. It's like, wow, I'm about to get blown away. This is about to be very, very sad. And the scene played out, and it was kind of like, I didn't find it sad. I found it very euphoric and just kind of like affirming, and I loved it. And obviously I wasn't crying, and the chat were like, so what do you think, Tally? What do you think? And I was like, well, they are definitely fucking. And that didn't go down very well.
I bet that went over great. I bet everyone loved that. I mean,
look, they love each other. And I'm just saying, I've never slept with a camel bird,
I'm
but
sure-
if I did, Seto would be that camel bird because he is awesome. I love him so much.
100%. The bestiality joke went over really well with a room full of people that was the emotional high point for.
Yeah,
I'm sure
but that happened quite a lot before as well because I'm a bit of a shipper and. You know, I remember actually starting a lot of controversy.
Oh,
I'm
shipping
about,
is
like,
dangerous.
lovely experience I've had on stream as well. But I remember starting a bit of controversy when in Stormblood, you know, there's that famous scene, you know, where they're training together. You, and oh my god, I forgot her name.
Lise?
Lise, yeah. You and Lise are training together, and I was talking about how it's great how I think. Clearly, they set it up in game, and I don't think this is controversial to say anymore, but it caused a lot of controversy at the time. I was like, it's fun how they set you up as having all these friends and being at the center of like this relationship with all these people, and I think it's nice that the way they present your relationship with certain characters and certain parts of the story, if you wanted it to be your headcanon that you got it on with Lise during that scene, then it could be. Like, you know, like you can watch that scene and it can be, yeah, you are training together and learning from each other, or it can be you fell in love and you slept together, right? And like to the extent where literally the first line after that cutscene is Lise going, oh, well, I'm worn out or something. And you know, like, I'm not saying you have to see that, but clearly I think it's quite clever the way it's written and presented, where if you wanted that to be your headcanon, the game does not, you know, rope that off for you. The game does not block that off for you. It's like, yeah, if you want to believe that you and Lise got together, then you did. Simple as that. So, and if you didn't get that from it, then you didn't. And that's awesome.
What was the problem?
And I feel like...
You framed this as a problem. That it faded to black.
Yeah, well, apparently that's a problem because that was me apparently... crediting filthy thoughts to the pure, innocent, lovely Yoshi that he would never have by himself. No, seriously, and this was it. People were like, you are, they thought I was taking the piss, and they thought that me saying that was trying to rubbish the emotional platonic experience that a lot of them had with it. So they'd had a very strong emotional experience with that scene. And
Chat,
because
I want to ask our chat right now.
One,
I'd like to I want to address our chat room. Right? Chat, have we just scared away the people who think that way because we've just shipped literally everyone at this point?
Because I just ship everyone.
Kyle ships everyone.
Yeah.
I've shipped most people.
One of my favorite pastimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Did we just scare those people away?
I think we,
Because I'm sure those people exist.
just loud enough.
But did we scare them away? I think we just scared them away, Taliesin. I think we scared those people away.
I mean, like...
Because we came swinging in with our Mass Effect romance and... love, and just everything was about who could romance who until we went to a wiki and checked ages.
But also don't forget, you know, it was a more defensive community at the time, and there was a more willingness to kick back at anything that seemed like it might be taking the piss and seemed like it might be looking down on or undermining, which is obviously not what I was trying to do. I was trying to have like a grown-up conversation about like the way that they'd written it and the quite clever way that they work the Warrior of Light into the game. Because I mean, you know,
I think that is
you can make a pretty solid case that pretty much everyone loves the Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
Like if you want to have a headcanon that you're having a relationship with any of them, you can pretty much.
Yeah, because I mean, Y'shtola is actively flirty at times, particularly depending on like hers. I think comes out more in optional dialogue situations. So sometimes you end up with a flirty retort, and other times you don't. Lise, I can see that. I always thought Lise and Hien made sense.
Well, they were in that dungeon together for so long.
Yes, you know? It just seemed, you know. But the big one is
Alize is all over the Warrior of Light. She loves you. She loves you.
And to me, like the big one too is Crystal Exarch. Just like seems to have the biggest crush.
Oh yeah,
the biggest crush on the Warrior of Light.
You literally go on a date with Emmerich, like, you know.
No, you're right. Yeah, he straight up invites you over for dinner.
You get to choose your date outfit, for goodness sake. It's like.
It is,
and the game is, and here's the thing, the game is better for that, I think, you know, and I don't think, I think if I said that now, it wouldn't cause any hassle at all. But I think just where the community was at the time, you know, some of them were quite defensive. That's all, and so I get it. I understand it.
Yeah, no, I see what they kind of mix that with the Praetorium thought process. There's like a respect the game on the level it's presented. Don't enter and apply your thoughts as you saw it.
Yeah.
From the outside.
Yeah, I don't know. Because, I mean, we get pushback, and probably, like, especially recently, because we've been going through the Elpis section, which is, like, really beloved. I haven't seen the comments in a while, but we do get them. They come up, and they disappear after a while, probably because they're new, and they realize we're not going to stop, so they leave. But we get I wish they'd stop making jokes during scenes and stuff. And it's just like, well, it's just how we process things. We like to make each other laugh. And not every cutscene is the end-all, be-all, most important thing that ever happened in this game. And I know you're mad we're talking over Vana, but we haven't gotten to the point where Vana seems important to us yet. So
yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie to you and treat these fictional characters with a reverence that I haven't myself built yet. So it's an interesting thing. It's then here I am having a really serious conversation about making jokes to your buddy while you play a game together. But yeah, I find it fascinating. I just find
that's the whole vibe of your streams, and that's the whole joy of them, you know, like, of course.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We got a lot in the really, really early days. Straight up, some people are just like, I don't like when they do like you do a voice modulator for Lalafell. So like, I don't like that. And we're like, well, it's going to keep happening because it makes me laugh.
Have a great time. Yeah.
So,
have a wonderful time using it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did eventually have to drop the Valley Girl when Ida was revealed to be Lise, and Lise ended up being a main character for an entire expansion. I was like, okay, I don't think I can keep doing Valley Girl for the whole time because it's kind of ruining the dramatic scenes.
You jump in status quite a bit from side character, main character.
Yes.
Some voices just aren't maintainable for that long of a period of time.
No, I'm so glad the lizard people from Eva Lise don't show up a lot because that voice is hard to maintain.
It was tiring.
But yeah, it's an interesting experience.
I mean, our guest here has requested multiple times he gets to talk about the story. You seem very excited to talk about the story. Was there something particular you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I was just saying, like, the way that I played Final Fantasy XIV kind of changed at that time when I just did that really long stream to get to the end of Shadowbringers, to the extent where I did start playing Endwalker in a kind of a normal stream setup, and I was enjoying it, but it's a bit of a slow burner at the start, Endwalker, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think the thing to do here is, you know, do a big stream where we finish Endwalker. Because there's no patch content at that time. Obviously, it had only just come out. And I was like, yeah, we just moved into this office here. None of this was up. It was all just like blank walls, and this brick wall over here wasn't even there. And you know, it's just like rubbish everywhere. And we just set up the computer, and it was like, okay, now is the time. I'm going to get into Endwalker. Everyone's kind of been saying I should really just bop through and finish it. And I agree, I want to. I'm really enjoying it. But I feel like I'm like leaving too big a gaps in between bits, and I'm falling out of the story and forgetting things and not really with it as much as I was Shadowbringers. So yeah, we'll do a stream where we start playing Endwalker and we don't finish until we're finished. So I had a little bed and I was sleeping here on camera, you know, proper like streamer stuff, right? And I just have this memory of the first night that I spent sleeping on stream while we were playing Endwalker was we were on the moon. We just got to the moon for the first time, right? And we just got there, and you know, it was like early hours of the morning, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have a few hours sleep, and then, you know, I'll get up, but I'm just here, you can see me, don't worry about it. And so I left the sound on as well to make sure nothing was going on with the stream, so I'd know if something went wrong. And you just got that very kind of like dreamy moon music the whole time.
Oh, that track is phenomenal.
Combined with like my tiredness, and like the camera obviously when you're just AFK and the camera starts like panning round, and get these really weird dreamy shots of just weirdly random shots of the moon and NPCs on the moon. And it was like it was after just 24 hours, it was a fever dream. It was wild, and just easily the best way to consume Final Fantasy XIV content. I think I loved it so much, and I was in my element. I was absolutely loving it. I was completely destroyed. We ordered like fun things off Amazon a few hours into the stream. because we knew they would arrive while we were still streaming, like from Amazon and stuff like that. We had Beth and Walker organized to come on to the stream and chat and keep me company while I was like playing and doing interviews and stuff like that. But unfortunately, my little boy, he got not very sick, but he got ill, and unfortunately, Evitel couldn't look after him and our youngest Penny. So unfortunately, I had to be a father and a human being, and I had to kind of like call the stream, which was like such a shame, because we were having such a good time and having a great sort of bop. And I just never, I've always thought if I ever, and I got to the bit where you guys are now, you know, a little bit of timey-wimey, right? What a time to end it as well, because I was like really into it and I was loving where the story was going. It was finally kind of kicking off. There was loads of amazing things happening. The dungeons had been banging up until that point as well. I was just having like a really, really good time. And I didn't want to stop. And I did say as much. I was like, no, Evie, I don't really care about my old kid. But she did convince me. And I've just never, I always thought if I did go back to Endwalker, I would really, really want to do the same thing. I'd really want to like finish it how I started it, which is just to bop through. For some reason, that's just become how I like to play Final Fantasy XIV. And, you know, I like it to be this huge just chunk of obscenely long narrative that I can just let wash over me.
It's all there.
And be tired and fever dreamy. And yeah.
And
I haven't quite had like the heart to go back and do that properly, basically.
Yeah, because this is something we talked about on your podcast last week, which is that like even if you're doing it at launch of a new expansion, there's a whole story, there's a whole package story there for you to consume immediately. There's a set of credits to be seen on launch day. Potentially, I think it might be more than 24 hours of content to get there, but yeah, like you can just no life it if you want.
Yeah.
There's a fascinating counter comment to that, if you wouldn't mind me bringing it up and asking.
Wait, one half of the guys that have taken almost the longest anyone has ever taken to beat the damn game?
Well, no, not that one. No. There was a comment that I found really fascinating, and it was, I don't want to play a story that takes 10 years to complete. I like WoW because it tells a story in 2 years. And I really did, like, I legitimately found that fascinating. I wanted to ask you, Tally, do you feel like, you know, while we in the Final Fantasy land might praise Final Fantasy for giving us this box product, do you feel like the WoW audience does enjoy that kind of 2-year story cycle, and it does feel maybe more complete because it is Pandaria is over, and maybe WoW fans going into Final Fantasy 14 kind of feel that like, how must this go on?
I mean, the thing you got to remember about World of Warcraft is when it was first made, you know, up until about 2 months before that game launched, story quests did not exist in that game. Like, they designed that game and they built it without quests. They didn't want quests in that game. And then, you know, throughout the alpha, people were saying, oh, we should have some questions. And the kind of like the very sparse ones that they put in were really popular. And then they kind of, but the game was never actually even built to handle story quests, let alone a story. And there's basically no story to speak of in vanilla. And
they're more like vignettes, I think of. Now that I've Classic is really fresh in my mind after playing Season of Discovery. It's like you get these vignettes for each kind of zone.
Yeah.
You know, you had like I leveled up Forsaken in Season of Discovery, so the whole like eventually getting your ways down to what was it, a Arathi or not a Arathi, whatever, Torren Mill, wherever the hell Torren Mill is. You know, there is a little bit of a story there, like the undead versus the humans, and eventually you kind of flip it by the time you get out to Torren Mill, because now the humans are they have more control over that zone. But it's like this vignetted story. There's not like named characters you're following the whole way through.
Dare I say it, it is the story of the world rather than a narrative, right? So you are dipping in and out of little things happening in the world rather than following, you know, a recognizable narrative through line, right? Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's what most MMOs do as well. It means that WoW players' relationship with the story has traditionally been quite different. You know, before the last game director before Ian Hazacostas was Tom Chilton, and he literally said he would get rid of the story department if he could. Like, it just wasn't important to his vision of the game in the slightest. It just wasn't what he was making the game for. Yeah. So I feel like players were generally okay with that. There were always kind of elements of the player base that wanted more focus on story and really appreciated it when the cinematics started getting more conversationally rather than just action set pieces at the end of story arcs and things like that. And you'll remember the cinematic between Illidan and Velen in Legion, and that was like the first at the beginning of 8.3 where they 7.3 where they get in the Vindicar and they fly off into space, and it was just a conversation, and it was a really cool, effective conversation, and we just weren't used to that in WoW, and it was like, this is actually really good. And then BFA came along with all those awesome cinematics and things, and story was very controversial, but the delivery of that story was right up there in many ways, compared relatively to like other WoW expansions.
Yeah, people are going to meme on the tower falling at the end, but you forget
exactly.
that the initial leveling had quite a few cutscenes, and they were pretty damn good. I really liked Jaina's story on the Alliance side, and I loved all the shit happening with the Horde and BFA. That's when people
meme on the ending of that raid and the tower falling down, but they forget that the cutscene that played before that was your character saving the raid team and zapping N'Zoth themselves, which looked kind of janky and terrible, but was the first time you had seen your character do the winning. Like, usually, because it was a pre-rendered cinematic, it had to, by necessity, be an in-game NPC that was doing it. And this is the first time that they've shown your character do it. So it was like, and now it's something they do all the time in like WoW cutscenes, which is great. But we've always been in WoW that further behind in terms of story, and there is a desire now, partly because of the success of Final Fantasy XIV, and I think this is really good, and you can definitely see it happening in WoW, there's an obvious desire amongst the players and the devs to create a more recognizable narrative through line and focus more on the telling of the story in different ways. And they've definitely started that process in Dragonflight, obviously with the announcement now of 3 expansions in advance. We're telling one story and, kind of trilogy thing. The implication is that they will be much more focused on story and story delivery. So yeah, hopefully, I'd love to see that happen. But again, there's that thing where it's not traditionally why anyone's WoW's just good to press buttons. Like, WoW is the best feeling game to press buttons I've ever played in my life. And I will often log on, and even when I've got nothing to do, and just press buttons, and it's fun. And just always, why the whole like laps around Dalaran thing is such a meme is because it's just fun to jump up and down in WoW. It's so responsive, and combat-wise, it's so responsive that it's naturally going to be more. And it's so responsive, and the combat is so good and slick, and the feedback is so good that it's always going to be focused on more in areas of combat and competitive play than other MMOs where the controls are fine. In Final Fantasy XIV's case, really, really good, but basically nothing compares to how responsive WoW's combat controls are.
Yeah, you have to deal with like the snapshot in 14. Which
yeah, exactly. And so there's always going to be more of a focus in WoW on things other than story, because it's much better at doing things that aren't story than some other MMOs are. So it does what it does. It does what it does best. It sticks to what it does best. But I'd love to see them do more story. I'd love to see them sort out Chromie time, which is the ability to go back and experience the story of an expansion. I'd love to see them change it so you actually experience the whole expansion rather than just a little bit until you leveled up. I think there's a million things they could do. Yeah. The desire does seem to be there from the devs now to kind of allow people to do that. It's never going to be Final Fantasy XIV where you have to play through the story, because people would hate that. People would despise it. But if they made it some optional thing where you could go back and do it, yeah, I think that'd be a wonderful thing for the game. I think because some of it's really good.
If they made it more straightforward, like, people might want to go do it. Like, keep the boost, let people boost that want to boost them. They let you boost in Final Fantasy XIV. I think it's kind of bonkers to do that now that I've gone through it linearly, but at least it is there as an option. Like, no one's stopping you from skipping shit in Final Fantasy 14 unless you play it publicly, which is public ridicule. Public ridicule will stop you from skipping shit. But it's
well, and that's the thing. Like public perception is a really important thing.
Yeah.
You know, you go into WoW because your friends are telling you how great raiding is, and you want to join them in that. You go into Final Fantasy 14, and it's more accepted that you will play through the story. People would look at you weird if you didn't.
Kyle refers to it as oral tradition. He thinks of oral tradition as being integral to MMOs because there's just so much to
100%.
experience that if you don't have someone to guide you or give you little tips, you're gonna miss out on stuff. And that's the oral tradition. The main ones of those two games. I think from World of Warcraft, it's like you got to get to this end game. It's so cool. You got to come join me. And back in the day, 38 of my other friends to go kick the living shit out of this fire elemental dude. And that's still true to this day. Like the raids, I've never really like truly hated a raid. I have raids I like more than other raids, but I always tend to enjoy myself in a World of Warcraft raid. They are very good at making those types of encounters. And so, yeah, I think the oral tradition between the two games is like, this one you should play for the story. This one you should play for the mechanics. I see World of Warcraft as twofold. I think you're right. I think part of it is the success of 14, and particularly people realizing that that's a good game, a quality experience at a time when they weren't driving with the story of World of Warcraft. But also, like, a lot of us that started back in the early days of World of Warcraft, we gave a crap because the Warcraft 3 story was pretty cool. Like that was how I even became a Blizzard fan, because I was like, oh, I mean, I played Command & Conquer, like the story's a cornball mess, who cares? And then I played Warcraft 3 and I was like, yeah, okay, blonde prince, I've seen this a million times. Oh my God, he just killed his dad. What is happening? What is happening in this story? So like, I think it's twofold. I think it's coming from the other big player in the market, but I think it's also coming from the past of Warcraft. Like at some point, a lot of us were really into the story.
Yeah.
So.
Totally. And there's always been a cottage industry in kind of, you know, making content that explains the story to people and or summarizes the story to people and like gathers it all. Because again, it's like, oh, it's not just in the game, it's over so many different media and stuff. And that's how I love consuming my fantasy. It's a meme in the WoW community to be like, oh, all the important stories in books and stuff like that. And it's like, to a degree, I've always kind of liked that. You know, like I
like it when I'm in it, and it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. But I am always in it, so I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
That's a good point. That's good. Well, I was in it in Shadowlands, and I remember enjoying Christy Golden's like Sylvana's novel, but then like they were just like, she crazy, and I'm just like, oh, this is so.
But my fantasy like upbringing is pre-internet, right? So you know, I got into fantasy. And it was the case that whatever fantasy IP you were into, the only way to consume it was over like loads of different media, right? You got into Star Wars, there were 3 movies. That's it, unless you wanted to watch the Ewok movies. And so you had to dive into like the world of cartoons and short stories and novels and comics and stuff like that. Like the way you consumed that fantasy was by necessity over like loads of different media and stuff like that. And then the same with Warhammer and things, you know, and like 40K. And it was short stories in White Dwarf magazine. It was like the stories in the codexes and then the official stuff and the non-official stuff and then the novels and again comics and even fan art and stuff was huge in that community. So I'm just more used to expecting my fantasy to be told over different media, I guess. So it's never really bothered me, and I like it when it's done well. Obviously, like that's always the caveat. But I don't have that. I don't have that aversion to the story and the lore and, you know, being spread out.
I think it's an easy target when the story is not hitting, but no one. I don't think it gets targeted when the story is hitting. Is kind of
whatever else. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but if you're always enjoying the story, even the critically acclaimed story that is The Jailer and Shadowlands. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And like then there's that thing of, on our channel we've always done kind of cinematic analysis and stuff like that, because I've got like a GCSE level understanding of, you know, filmic convention and narrative convention and structure and stuff. So I've always found it quite fun to do very basic deep dives into the cinematics, and as those became more important then throughout BFA and Shadowlands for propelling the story, I found that I was spending a lot of time kind of correcting misconceptions and mistranslations of the community towards those cinematics, which a lot of people take as being defenses of them. It's a case of going like, I don't know, say Thrall says, "My hands have fallen off." And then a huge, the camera shows him with no hands. And then a huge chunk of the community is like, "I can't believe Thrall's still got both his hands. That doesn't make any sense." And you go, "Oh no, I think the cinematic is showing us quite clearly here that Thrall's hands have in fact fallen off." And then they get really angry with you because they're like, "Why are you defending this cinematic, Tally? It's trash. It's really bad." It's like, I'm not defending it. I'm explaining the thing that you misunderstood about it, which is not the same thing. I'd like it if we were on the same page of understanding the thing, so that we could critique it together. That would be great. That's something that we found happening a lot during Shadowlands, especially that bit where Thrall's hands fell off. That was a nightmare.
That's my favorite part. It's my favorite part of Shadowlands.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's the best
awful.
part. Absolutely
Celebrated.
Well,
curse you, Danusa.
Jeez. Well, got time. We got a little bit of time left. I'd like to take a couple questions since we did ask for them before we get you out of here, because we know we got to get you out of here in a little bit here, Taliesin. And I'm going to selfishly ask this next one because I want to know the answer as someone who's still shoring up his home studio. Rhea from our Discord asked, "What is something essential for a home studio set that you didn't consider when you set out to build one?" Because your home
Sorry,
studio.
could you repeat that question?
What is something essential for a home studio set that you didn't consider when you originally set out to build yours?
Oh, switches. So our setup is different from most people's, but actually probably quite similar to yours in that Evie's desk is here, her PC setup is there. We each have a camera, and we each have a PC. But obviously, when we stream, we want it all to go through one PC, and we want the cameras all to go through one PC, and we want the sound all to go through one PC. But we also want all that stuff to be able to go through her PC when she's streaming, and we want it all to go through my PC when I'm streaming. And so, just having handmade kind of switches where we can take wires out and put them into other holes, and that's sending the so from the back of our PC, we've each got HDMI cables going into the switch deck, I guess, which I made, which then are going back out again to the cameras and back again. So it doubles the amount of cables that you need, but it means that you can change which camera you can change which PC the camera's going into just by taking one HDMI cable out of one HDMI slot, which I've got right in front of me here under my monitor, and putting it into a different one. And we have the same with the microphones.
Basically
we have
built an HDMI switchboard.
Oh yeah, basically, yeah, and that's why we built a whole outboard audio setup as well.
Oh my god!
So that we could have the switches there.
I should have
as well.
talked to you before I started any of this shit.
Oh yeah, no, seriously, and it took me years to learn because obviously we went through that learning experience in our old house, and then when we moved, we started this space completely from scratch. And I was like, okay, we need switches, we need an outboard sound setup, we need places I can drill into the wall to have battery operated aperture lights on the walls, so there's no cables going everywhere, and we can just whack them in and have them shining from various places. And so definitely that.
Damn. Okay. All right.
But the switches are a lifesaver because it just means you don't have to.
Yeah. Our thought initially, and how it's currently set up, is this computer is just always the stream computer. So all the computers go to it. The sound board goes to it, and that's pretty much it. And then I haven't set it up yet, but we got an HDMI splitter so that I can hopefully pull in Kyle's gameplay when we want to show Kyle's gameplay on the streaming. And we're thinking that'll be okay. But now I'm like, essentially you could, I guess, plug in all your capture cards into a hub and then just move the hub USB between the two computers. And that would more or less kind of cover it. In
theory,
right?
that should work.
As long as you're.
But so we can stream from either computer, but we can have both cameras on. and and that's really great. And the computers can and I can switch them midstream if I ever wanted to. I never would. And it's really great. And the big test of that was when, in my head, I was always like, and we've got to get that sorted before Baldur's Gate 3 comes in. That's going to be our job for a month. Well, actually, we were like, originally back in the old house, this is back in like 2020, we were like, look, when Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, we're going to give ourselves a week where we don't do anything else. Like, the kids are going with Granny and Granddad. We're going to just play Baldur's Gate 3 together, and we're going to go through it. And we'd always promised ourselves that, and that turned into 2 months. But that was our job, like streaming that for 2 months. And it was fantastic. And I know you guys are planning on doing the same thing, right? And it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be so cool. It was to do that together, on screen, and we had it so it was split screen some of the time, so we had both of our screens on, and we had it so that we could have one screen, and I made this swipe on After Effects where it would swipe to change whose gameplay you were watching, but it would also have like a picture of which player you were kind of going to. So like my little halfling would pop up like that.
You shouldn't have told me. I'm gonna bother you so
cool.
much.
I'll send you all my templates. It's great. And it was amazing to play the game like that on stream together, blind, and just be able to take our time and like really commit to all the things that happened and all the mistakes we made. We wrote. It was brilliant. It was probably the best game experience of my life. To play that game on stream. So I am envious of you. You get to do it for the first time.
You got to get it going for when you return to 14.
Yeah, well, Evie is still way behind.
We were asked if you all. That was one of the questions. I remember. I can't remember who asked it, but I know someone asked, like, would you guys ever consider duo streaming 14?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, dual streaming is great. I love it. And as Evie gradually sneaks back into being more and more full time on the channel again, and the kids are getting a little bit older and going to daycare more, and we just have a bit more time. That's definitely something we're doing. I mean, that's why we started the podcast, was because we had time to do it suddenly again. We've often done a bit of dual WoW playing, and as soon as she's caught up, she would never play it with me just looking over her shoulder. That'd be terrible. Even no matter how good I am at doing the voices.
Well, tell her we'll be in seats watching her finish 5-0 when that happens, because that's the first thing I want to rewatch.
I know. I think she just likes existing in Shadowbringers. I think she just likes being there. She'll just log in, and she plays it mostly on the PS4 at the moment in the living room. And she'll just log in. She'll just hang out. She won't really do anything. She'll just do laps around Crystal Towers. It's fantastic.
It's a good city. It's a solid city. I have to get this one in because so many people from our community just want to know, including Comsci Jedi, who officially sent it into the questions. Folks want to know if you've heard our god-awful British accents when we read characters from Final Fantasy XIV.
Wait, you guys don't have British accents naturally?
I know, right?
Oh, man. I know. We're so
all the British actors doing English accents really kind of messed with
I just feel so at home with you guys. I just assumed, wait, why are you, where are you? No, I insist you do your British accents for me right now, please.
You got to go back to the Jongleurs. Wasn't that what they were called?
The jongleurs?
Yeah, the jongleurs. Wasn't that
basically every character in the game has a British accent.
Yeah, true. In their organic voice acted appearances.
Yeah. All right, chat. Which character am I doing? Which character am I doing? It's funny too because it's freaking. Oh my god, I can't do this shit on command.
I know. Well, you just got you just got to lean into it, and
that sounds extremely Australian.
Yes, that's why they made a Bluey, because they were mad that Peppa Pig was getting all the kids to talk like Peppa Pig, and now Bluey wants people to talk like Australia. It's the same thing, kind of.
Okay.
So let me know when you started doing the accents, guys.
Yeah, I know. It's transformative before your very eyes.
Oh yeah. Well, I get into Emmett by thinking of, you committed the cardinal sin of boring me.
Okay. Yeah. See.
It's all right. That's saucy. I like it.
That's
dude, better than my American accent. Don't worry, it's good.
We'll hit it. Well, now we demand you do your American accent.
Well, he's on our show, so we can't demand.
Yes, we can.
Well, he's the guest. You have to treat the guest with respect.
I want to do my American accent for you. Give me what shall I say? No, don't worry. I've got something I can say.
Do your best, Charlie Cox doing Daredevil. Come on, the only other name you love dropping does it. You do it.
Who's Charlie Cox? Okay. All right, Kingpin. Shine your shoes. Don't be doing that, you slag.
Nailed it.
I can't see you. Where have you gone? I can't see you.
See?
Just nailed it. Absolutely.
The
flawless.
accent, it's like a New Yorker. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I was transported.
Hey, I'm walking here.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's absolutely flawless. So you're going to join us whenever we play through Grand Theft Auto and read all of the Grand Theft Auto lines for us, and we'll join you when you pick back up Final Fantasy 14 and do all of the wonderfully British lines for you. How's that sound?
Oh, I do a good Chris Metzen though.
Okay.
I do a good Chris Metzen impression. Well, because like the key to doing Chris Metzen is like you just got to channel a '90s wrestler, right? You channel Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, you know, and you do everything like that. So you're like, okay, guys, I'm going to stream Final Fantasy 14, but I'm going to play most of it off stream. And then we're going to have loads of fun, and I'm going to cry at everything that happens, but not the bits you want me to cry at. You got to have little asides.
Yeah.
You got to have little wrestler asides.
That
That's
was
the Chris
good.
Metzen experience
That was great.
right there.
Horde, Alliance, and Protoss. You know, you get loud, and you drop it.
Yeah.
And then you get back into it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what you do.
Great.
That's what you do. Well,
I love it. And then you rip off your shirt.
I haven't.
My favorite part of BlizzCon.
His shirt is Chris Metzen's nipples.
Well, since they took away the bowling shirts now, you know, they don't really rip them
Oh,
off so much.
I missed the bowling shirts.
Seeing
so
those
much.
pins and the buttons fly
It's
across
all
the stage.
it's all Yoshi P now. You know, he's got to take the button down off to show the T-shirt that is some like 4D chest tease for whatever the next job is.
Yeah, no, they don't do that around the Blizzard
Yeah,
sphere.
no, they don't. They don't.
Up their shirt
Now,
game.
if they did it, the 14 fans would be like, "Look at them stealing more shit from our community." Now they're not allowed to do it. You can't tease with T-shirts. Yeah. Anyway, Telly, dude, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, it was great hanging with you.
Spending time with us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank
Talking
you. It was a
MMOs.
joy. And your chat was really lovely. Thank you for being so kind and not telling me to get off the stage, get new material. It's much appreciated.
If folks aren't aware already of where to find you, where can they find you at?
You can find us at the famous YouTube channel, Taliesin and Evitel. And also, we have a second channel, which is kind of like stream conversations rather than highlights, I guess. And that's Taliesin and Evitel's second channel. And you can find us on Twitter at Taliesin Evitel. No and on that one. Don't put an and in, you idiot. You won't find us. That's about it, I think.
Go and do that.
There's probably some
Perfect.
others. I
Well
think we're on
done.
Instagram. I think we're on TikTok. Oh, mate, the TikToks, they're wild. Check those out.
Of course, yeah, you got to get the tier list off Twitter. You know, you got to join the conversation.
Yeah, legit. Some of my absolute favorite content creators. If everybody wants to go watch the people that scared me away from ever bothering trying to write my content, go watch Taliesin and Evitel because you're too good at it. So go check it out. Other than that, we want to thank all of you supporting us on our Patreon. Check out supportourbromance.com. That'll take you directly to our Patreon, where you can get all kinds of perks like an ad-free version of the show and all of that. And I know we need to get Tally out of here, so I will add reading all of your names and thanking you in post. So thank you all very much. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Grinding Gear podcast. Until next time, GG.
Take care. Yeah.
Rad.
Nice.
As usual, went down to the wire for your allotted time there, Tally.
Oh, no, it's
Thank you
fine.
for your
That's good.
time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. It's awesome. That was fun. Thank you. Sorry if I was a bit rambly. I'm not sorry. That's what I do.
It's a
But yeah,
podcast.
I was a bit rambly.
You're
but
literally
thanks-
here to
thanks
do
for
it.
that.
Yes, that's the
what you're
job.
here to do.
That's the job.
It's what you're here to do.
No, it's awesome. Thank you, guys.
El
Much
Bardo,
appreciated.
Jesus. Oh
Thank
my
you,
God.
Alberto.
Hey, El Bardo!
El Bardo is the famous outing of me talking shit about Taliesin to Taliesin in his own Discord, which I am in, so I get tagged in it.
I see.
Yeah. Matter of fact, when I
El
put a
Bardo's
call,
an absolute star and legend. Yeah.
yeah, when I
He's
put out a
awesome.
so in our question for the host channel where I asked for questions for the podcast, I said anyone has a question for Taliesin, drop them now, and Albardo immediately got it in there with a "Are you sure you want to be asking this?" Was Albardo in our chat because yeah,
Yeah, we have a forever Q&A going on our Patreon, and literally every other question is from Albardo.
Yeah, we learned that very early on when we started our question channel.
Yeah, we had to be like, we're going to try and do the Albardo run in 12 parsecs. Let's go.
Albardo, you get to ask us one Albardo style question right now before we let Tally go. You better get on it.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. It's down to the wire. 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes before Taliesin is ejected from this Discord call.
I have to go for secret reasons.
Where are the crisps? That's the question.
That's the question.
Where are the crisps?
I sat on them. No, I was eating a big salami tonight, actually, but I did get crisps and hobnobs for later. But I won't be done until midnight tonight, unfortunately. So, yeah, I've got to stop eating them because otherwise I'll be up all night. It's a shame.
What the frick is a hobnob? Was that English?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but they are the best. Oh, they're so yummy. Get yourself. I bet you can find them at your local, like, I don't know. Is it Tita? Do you have Titas where you are? No. Like the big department store? I know they've got them in like North Carolina.
Titas?
I know, they're called Titas. Yeah, it sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? But it is what it is. And they've got a great selection of hobnobs. Get McVitie's milk chocolate hobnobs, and you'll thank me for that.
Okay, we're going to have to look this up.
Right.
I'll do my best. No promises. But thanks again, dude. We'll get you out of here. Thanks for hanging.
It was lovely hanging out with you.
Bye now. Really
Thanks for hanging
out. Carl. Thank you, mate. Bye.
Bye. Hobnobs.
What the? I don't know what that is. I don't know what a hobnob is. Kyle's Googling it right now.
A biscuit.
It's a biscuit.
Yeah, a cookie. Commercial biscuit.
Oh, I would eat that. Ooh, that chocolate covered one. I eat the shit out of that.
It looks like a Girl Scout cookie kind of business.
Kind of does, yeah.
Ooh, I've seen these. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, they do sell those.
Yeah.
They sell those at Publix.
Yeah. I like the little Paris boy ones. Those are, oh my God.
If it wasn't already late and we need to get you home for dinner, I'd say let's go to Publix right now and get one.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's like a biscuit. It's a cookie adjacent. Okay, sweet. I think it's more of an Australian thing. And we might be getting some because I was contacted by an Australian friend that was like, do you want any Australian snacks? And I was like, I wouldn't say no. I've always wanted to try a Tim Tam because I enjoy these two Australians called Mighty Car Mods on YouTube, and they're always eating Tim Tams, and they look delicious. They look freaking delicious.
How y'all doing, chat? You guys have a good time with our...
You have a good time?
That was an awesome...
That was a fun chat. Yeah. I really like talking with Taliesin. He's a kindred spirit. I enjoy his view on things.
Brand.
I do enjoy it. It's a good time. Ichigo, thank you for the 4 months at the start of things. Glad you were on time. You're welcome for what you consider entertainment. I feel like it's a little hubris of me to call what I'm doing entertaining. You get to tell us it's entertaining. I don't get to claim it as entertainment.
Oh, okay.
That's how it works. That's how I'll put that. Das wanted to make sure that everyone enjoys Happy First Week of Single Awareness Month.
Oh, right. Yes. Of course. Yes.
Single Awareness Month.
We are into it.
Get together and create the single primal, everybody.
Enthralls people.
The more I go with that, the weirder it gets. I'm like worship at the altar of singleness.
Well, I mean, there is a sort of, you should be single with me kind of enthrallment that happens often in the...
Yeah. I mean, it's healthy.
Tumultuous time.
It's healthy.
Valentine's Day for many.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim Beverly sent in a generous super in the middle of the podcast saying, my 2 favorite WoW creators now discussing Final Fantasy XIV. This is magical and I'm happy to see this. It feels like seeing old friends at a new party. That is a cool way to put that.
That's a good phrase.
I like that. Yeah. Old friends at a new party. I quite enjoyed
Lovely.
that. Joey said, did you mean every scene with Emmett for Garrett? Wait, what?
I think it was just, all the fanboying. Because, he was throwing down a little bit. He was throwing some shade on your boy that you enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, you can throw shade on literally the best character in the entire game if you want. If that is a bold strategy. It's a bold strategy. Suna supered, I can't believe you didn't talk about the best part of Heaven's Ward, which is Dragon Shock Face. And then included a Dragon Shock Face. You're damn right. You're damn right it is.
It's a fascinating... I'm going to be thinking about it. I didn't realize we missed such a wave, that there were pioneers ahead of us that cleared the way for us fools to dance about on the MSQ as we've done.
I mean, we get it too, and that's what I started to get into with Tally there, is that like we still, to this day, we've got a fresh batch last week of like, how dare you make jokes during the, it's like, I think, if anything, like really, and I wish Tally was here now to continue this conversation, is that like, I think the marathon style that he does it is different from the long form style that we do it. We've just been doing it so long that I think people are kind of used to the way we do it. And so we don't get that as much anymore. I think because we're getting to the end of Endwalker, we're getting people that haven't watched this before, and that's where those comments are coming from. Like I've got all this headcanon going on for why.
That's a good word for it.
Why we get that kind of comment. But yeah. Oh, Das, thank you for the super. You're letting us know right now that Tim Tams are amazing. Wondrous. Absolutely wondrous. Well, we need to get Kyle home. So patrons, I will be, if you're a new patron or one of our legendary patrons, I will be adding to the audio one in post, because we had to get Taliesin out of here. And we also had to record an hour later than usual to work around the European time. So, Tally's still here. Thanks again, dude.
Thanks for hanging out.
But yeah, it's dinner time for you. And it's about to be dinner time for me. So we do need to get running. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to be together for it.
Yep.
Back here at Studio G. And we'll be revisiting our playthrough of Elpis while also catching and thanking you for all the supers that we missed.
The Super Forum.
The Super Forum is in effect tomorrow at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Eastern time. I'm still getting used to all this. Mondays are maximum sweatiness for me, so it's hard for me to string a sentence together. Yeah. Thanks, Invictus. Enjoy the VOD.
Enjoy. It was good.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, GG. Thanks for watching the stream.
Bye, everybody.
I'm off to turn off the stream.
I'll still be here. Bye, everybody.
Waving. Do your best princess wave. All right, now pretend like you're a mascot at Disney World.